We got music and I fixed everything, everybody. We haven't been canceled. Welcome to Revisiting the Mania, rewatching WrestleMania 2. I'm Carlos.
And I'm Maria.
And with us is our friend Nate.
What's up, wrestling fans?
Hey, Nate. Now, I've been talking with you for, I think, the same amount as Raymond, the better part of maybe, I think we established maybe 15 years plus online.
It's been 15 plus years online.
Yeah.
I know 2006, 2007, I believe.
Yeah, so we all pretty much bonded on when Raymond was working over there at G4 TV on the message boards. And
still got all those avatars.
Do you?
Yeah, I still got them. Of course I do, man. I save every digital thing I ever created. I save everything.
Hey, you never know. It could always come back and make you some money somewhere down the line, right?
It's not just that. It's more just a habit because you'll never know when somebody asks, like, hey, that thing you did for me years and years ago, do you still have that? And I like to say, yes. Yes, I do.
Wow. That's really cool.
Yeah, definitely is. Now, you are a big wrestling fan. I think at one point you had told me that you were on Twitch for a while and had like an online wrestling league.
Yeah, I was part of an eFed. I've stopped doing it since, but they still put on a great show. On anybody check out on Twitch, Nighthawks 24 is my particular favorite one. I was part of that for quite some time. Basically, you got the current latest WWE game. You make your character however you want. You upload it to the community creations, right? They download it. They put it in CPU versus CPU matches, and you get to cut promos or do whatever in the chat, and it's fantastic. It's a lot of fun.
That sounds really good. I can't wait to check that out.
Yeah, definitely will. And we're discussing WrestleMania 2. Thank you.
Deuces.
Yeah.
This is I guess the event that Vince decided to throw again, but instead of having it in one venue, he had it in two. Because it's WrestleMania 2.
It was three.
Oh, it was
three locations.
It was
not two locations
so
were good enough.
This particular WrestleMania, first off, the gamble was with WrestleMania 1 as well.
Definitely.
We have to backtrack a little bit because he saw, the Super Bowl. He saw the World Series, this yearly big event that these sports had, right? And he was basically like, why not wrestling? And he kind of really shoestringed together the first WrestleMania with, all the money he had. And it was to the point that if it wasn't a hit, we wouldn't be talking about WWE at all nowadays if that didn't go over. But it went over, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So come WrestleMania 2, he's like, you know what? We need to ramp it up a bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
I sold out one arena. I'm going to sell out 3 arenas.
Yeah.
Impressive. Yeah.
This had complications because it sounds great on paper, right? But in practice, so first off, the date it was held on was April 7th, 1986. Now, for those of you at home with a calendar, that's not on a Sunday like WrestleMania traditionally is. It's not even on a Saturday.
Wow.
That's a Monday.
Not a Monday.
The first WrestleMania until we get the double days to be held on Monday or a day other than Sunday.
It's the only day other than Sunday. It's the only one to ever be held on a Monday.
Wow.
Now, this was probably for scheduling for the 3 arenas. That's my guess. I don't really know. I couldn't look into that. But I was 7 years old at the time, right?
Ooh, okay.
Yeah. And so I got to do a little bit of backstory here.
Okay.
I was in about kindergarten when I saw my first wrestling match ever. I know it was Greg the Hammer Valentine versus, I don't know, right? But I know it was Greg Valentine because I actually had a friend named Greg Valentine at the time. And I remember commenting like, hey, like that's my friend's name. And, because I'm a little kid and everything, right?
Wow.
And at that time, I'm guessing it was Mid-Atlantic Wrestling because Mid-Atlantic was the lower territory that became WCW, right? And then, but they were trying to encroach further and further north, right? And because they had cable station, they were airing on TBS, they were airing, they had shows there, but I didn't have cable at the time. But what I remember is they treated it like it was a sport. Like they had tail of the tape with the pictures and then their height and their weight and everything like that. And I remember watching that. And I have two brothers, right? One is about 18 months older than me, right? You can see where that's going.
Mm-hmm.
And I have one that's about 10 years older than me.
Whoa.
They do a little bit more. So anyway, we saw this wrestling match. We were enamored, and then me and my brother were like, we can wrestle each other. We can do that. Right.
That is cute.
And we got super into wrestling. And then our older brother was like, oh, you got to watch the real stuff, which was the New York territory at the time, which was the World Wrestling Federation.
Wow.
And when he showed that, I swear to God, the first person I noticed was Macho Man Randy Savage.
Yes.
It was before he won the belt, any belts or anything, but he had this blue sequin shirt on that said Hulk Who with a question mark. Right?
That's right.
And my brother was like, oh, that shirt's hilarious, Hulk Who, my older brother. And I was there like, Hulk Who, like the Incredible Hulk Who are you talking about? No, Hulk Hogan, he's the champion, right? And I later found out, of course, exactly who Hulk Hogan was, because that dude was so over, like incredibly over at the time. And then we started going to more wrestling events, watching wrestling more, and wrestling each other more. Shortly before, it had to have been like in January or February of that same year, 86. I'm in first grade. I'm 7 years old, right? I'm wrestling my brother, right?
Okay.
I have him in a chin lock. He swore it was a camel clutch, but I know it was a chin lock because of what happened. I'm doing this, going, making a face on my tongue, and his head pops up, hits me in the bottom of the chin.
Oh, wow.
No. And almost bit my tongue clean off.
Oh, wow.
It took 9 stitches to put it back in place. So, look, I go to the hospital, and I had already soaked through 3 bath towels with full of blood, right? And I go, and they're like, okay, we'll get you as soon as we can, right? And then I'm in the ER, and you know how crowded an ER is on any given day, right?
Right.
And I'm a 7-year-old kid soaking with these bath towels full of blood.
Right.
And the lady comes in, she calls somebody's name, and that person's like, why don't you take the kid first? And everybody else is like, yeah, take the kid first. Get to him.
Right.
Take him before me. I'm not that bad.
Right.
Right? And so, and that's the only time I've ever seen that happen in the ER, because usually people are like, no, whatever's wrong with me, get to me. But that people had a heart for that, apparently. So it took 9 stitches, right? Because I was young. Nowadays it would take a lot more, because but that's how little I was at the time. Right. So anyway, because of that, we weren't allowed to watch wrestling for quite some time, right?
Wow.
And my mom just banned it in the house, right? And she's at work on a Saturday, right? She was doing real estate, I believe, at the time. And I hear my dad call for me and my brother. He would just whistle, like he did one of those like really loud whistles that I've been trying to do my whole life and still can't do, because I just can't. Yeah. He whistled for us. We run down the stairs, and he says, "You kids want to watch WrestleMania?" And we were like, yeah. Now, bear in mind, at the time, there were people in my school, teachers, they called all WWF matches WrestleMania. All of it.
That's hilarious.
Like a slang term, right? So I'm thinking I'm just watching wrestling. But I get down there, and I swear to God, it was WrestleMania 2.
Wow.
History tells me that it should have been WrestleMania 1, because the feed cut out in Pittsburgh. I'm from Pittsburgh, which is a wrestling hotbed, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'll get to that in a minute too, right? Like there's a lot that happened and goes down in Pittsburgh, right? And for the first WrestleMania, they had it all on CCTV, and where they had it on CCTV, the feed cut, and they screamed hard and actually smashed the screen in the venue where they had the CCTV. So they broadcast the entire thing to the whole city on one of our local networks. And I swear they must have did it with 2 too, because I watched WrestleMania 2 on a 12-inch screen, right? Before I had cable. I swear to God.
Wow.
With my brother. And I remember it being the main event. But a little bit about the wrestling hotbed that I was, and we got to go forward in time before we come back, right?
Okay.
It's about March or April of 1998, right? I'm playing music at the time. You know, I'm just out of high school. I'm planning on moving to the beach for the summer and playing music there
Awesome.
to make money, right?
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
of course. I'm 19 years old. It's like that. That's what I'm gonna do, right? And I'm delivering pizza at the time, and my buddy's like, that's N64 wrestling games, WCW versus NWO World Tour was
Right.
out, right? And I played that like crazy, and because of that, I started watching wrestling again. I stopped for like the whole Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels era.
Yeah, me too.
Well, we were at that age where we were starting to get into girls, and girls didn't really like dudes that watch wrestling.
Spoiler alert, guys.
Yeah, right.
For you young
Right?
fans that may be out there listening.
Oh,
Well,
there's
it
a
might be a
shoe.
different
There is
time
a
now.
shoe for
I don't know.
every
At that
foot.
time, yeah, it might be a different time, but at that time, that's how it was. But anyway, so I was doing it low key, but then I found out other people were watching too. I'm like, okay, yeah, this is cool, right? Well, anyway, my buddy's like, hey, they're having a pay-per-view in Pittsburgh. WWF, World Wrestling Federation, is having a pay-per-view in Pittsburgh. And I got an extra ticket. Do you want to go? And I was like, when is it? And they said, it's June. I think they said June, right? And I'm like, oh, I can't. I'm going to be living on the beach by then, right?
Mm-hmm.
No, that was King of the Ring 1998.
Oh, no.
That was the Hell in the Cell match between
Wow.
Undertaker and Mankind.
Yeah.
You know,
That's
the one where
That's where
Mick
he
Foley
gets thrown out.
Yeah, that's the Hell in the Cell match. I could have been there. That happened in Pittsburgh.
Wow.
And
Is it someone?
yes, yes, it is a monologue reading, right? Everybody say hi to Raymond Padilla.
Hi, Ray.
Our
Shout out to
previous
Arpad
guest.
TV.
Yep.
And the beer
And
pad.
the beer pad. Yep,
Which
and
we
the
love
beer
to
pad.
watch.
Which they'll be doing something on Tuesday.
Also, can't wait to see their next one, which is on the Barbie movie.
Raymond's doing the Barbie on his own.
Okay.
Nice.
But let's get started in breaking down this first match.
Yeah,
So WrestleMania 1 starts, and we do have a guest finally singing, but it's not the national anthem. It is America the Beautiful
Ray Charles.
with Ray Charles.
The legend. The icon,
legendary.
The icon.
Ray Charles. Now, this is where these complications really started as well. He comes in and his mic is feeding back.
Mm-hmm.
They don't really have it set up quite right because they're still learning how to do this right. That's going to come up several times.
Yes, that's correct, Ray. They did get some blind guy.
Some iconic Ray. Yeah, I mean, Ray Charles is awesome.
Why didn't they get one of those portable keyboards for him to do it, though? He does come back later on, right? I remember him playing the piano somewhere on the ramp and doing America the Beautiful again. Or that could have been a Super Bowl. I don't know.
Yeah. But he had trouble. And over him singing America the Beautiful, they had this token patriotic footage of jets flying and the flag and then soldiers. And then at the end, you got Hulk Hogan with all these fireworks behind him because that is what an American looked like in 1986.
Yeah, I was like, what is this? I'm like, okay, look at this montage.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. So after that, we finally get to the I guess competitors or the match.
Well, the first part is in Uniondale, New York, which is on Long Island. The second part, the third part is in South Central Los Angeles, and then the second part, it's in some city. Don't tell me. Walla Walla, Washington. No. Kissimmee, Florida. No. The third
Chicago.
ring of hell.
Detroit.
What's that? What'd you say?
Wasn't it in New York, Chicago, and LA?
Yes, but it's technically not Chicago.
What's in Chicago?
Was it in Rosemont?
So speaking of
Pizza
which,
casserole.
Los Angeles is a city of angels, right?
Yes.
New York, there's a city that's New York. There's a city that's York, and this is the new version of it.
Mm-hmm.
What is a Chicago?
It's Indian name. I can't remember exactly how it's pronounce, but it's named after the Indians that live. They're Native Americans. I shouldn't say Indians.
I was
Native
gonna say, if you
Americans.
have any more information,
And they pretty much, I think what it said, it translated to was like a smelly onion or land of the onion or something like that.
I think we can
Smelly
have
Onionland.
we're gonna have to look that up. Some city with pizza casserole.
Anyway, sorry, but yeah, it's actually in Rosemont, Illinois, which is about a half hour away.
Yes.
Really, Ray?
Yeah.
It's like maybe half an hour or 45 minutes away from where we're located in Chicago.
Yes, it's a very, 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 very far place.
We used to travel to Rosemont to go to comic conventions.
And I do not want to go there, even for the Survivor Series pay-per-view. It's Algonquin. Thank you, Caleb, who's still alive. Please subscribe so
What up, Caleb?
Will be alive. So
Caleb killed a lot of people who wrestled at WrestleMania too. I'm just saying.
Oh, okay. And we'll get into that. So we have right now 2 people that are facing off: Don Muraco versus Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff. I can't never say that name right the first time.
So my mom, whenever she would watch wrestling, there were 2 wrestlers in particular that she would stop what she was doing and also watch their matches with me because she thought they were hot. And I want to see if Maria can guess who they were and see if the senses are the similar, because both of them are on this card.
I'm kind of curious. Was it Mr. Wonderful?
That's one of them.
Which I thought he looked like Lou Ferrigno's brother. And who else?
Drew Ferrigno?
Was it Roddy Piper? No.
Piper.
Who was it?
Jake the Snake Roberts.
Wow.
Yeah.
She was super into Jake. But yeah, that was my mom. But yeah, they were learning a lot with this match too. And throughout the whole thing. I mean, like I said, the whole thing is plagued, and they'll come up. But I mean, not only did you have like the feedback issue, but you had issues with mic audio issues. The time to set up the cage at the end. You even had continuity problems with the storytelling.
What did you think about the cage setup? I thought it was like a tight squeeze.
Well, let's go ahead and focus on this one.
Let's get back. But here's the other thing.
One match at a time.
In the ramp up, though, I mean, they had all these celebrities for WrestleMania 1. I mean, they had Muhammad Ali, they had Liberace, they had Cyndi Lauper, the world famous Rockettes. They really needed to step it up, so they got Susan St. James. Mic drop.
Was that a mic drop for you? Because I thought it was kind of
what?
Like at the time, was she iconic?
If she's not famous enough for you, Kathy Lee Crosby.
Yeah. Also.
What?
And G. Gordon Liddy.
G. Gordon Liddy.
G. Gordon Liddy, yeah. Herb, the Where's the Beef Lady?
Yeah, that was awesome.
Right? No, they did have some
Elvira.
Yeah, Elvira. Right, but they had some celebrity, but I wouldn't say they necessarily ramped it up. And
Ricky Schroeder didn't do it for you?
Oh, Ricky Schroeder. How can you forget?
Right.
Did you hear them boo?
All the football players. Had.
49ers.
And Too Tall Jones
Bears.
coming off his Police Academy stints.
Yeah, right.
I love Police Academy.
But yeah, anyway, we were on this. So you missed an important part of the Magnificent Muraco and Paul Orndorff. Mr. Fuji represented Don Muraco. Now there's a part that is cut out of the current feed where one part Mr. Wonderful throws Don Muraco to the outside ring and looks at Mr. Fuji and does a quite racist eye squint look towards Mr. Fuji. And that kind of stuff happened a lot. Right?
Especially to Mr. Fuji.
Yeah.
That's terrible.
Right.
Yes. Thank you for providing all the celebrities that were here.
And so we're talking 1985.
We would eventually get to them, but thank you for trying to provide us with more information about the celebrities that were there. So this match goes about 4 minutes, 20 seconds. It doesn't look like they could get anything going. There's like a couple of holds. I'm not sure if they couldn't agree on how this match should go. And
I don't think they gave them a whole lot of time.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, but how can they be falling behind already? The pay-per-view just started.
Yeah, I think they only gave him like regular TV time,
Okay.
which would have been like 4 or 5 minutes to do it. But the notable things I noticed about this match is first off, the bell rings,
Yeah.
and Howard Finkel has no idea what happened.
What?
No, he doesn't.
Where's the beef lady? Clara Peller's the where's the beef lady, Raymond. But
Yeah. He answered himself.
yeah.
No, Caleb, I don't think they did that on purpose. I just think that just ended up because they end up just falling out of the ring and still battling,
Yeah.
and then the ref
And he had
counts
no
them
idea.
out. So there's
And
no way they
then-
could have done that on purpose.
And then
Or could they have?
Mr. Wonderful reaches for a chair.
Yeah.
Not a steel chair like we know and love today as the iconic wrestling weapon. A yellow plastic non-folding chair,
Yeah, the ones that we all had to sit in school.
right? And he goes after him with that, but the match is already over. And
Mhm.
Vince calls for the official announcement twice, over the announcer speaker, but Fink still has no idea
No.
until they do announce it over a Mr. T promo,
Yes.
Yeah.
like overlapping, and
Yeah.
again, technical issues they had. But yeah, that's what I noticed is yeah.
So I guess we can move on to the next match, which would have been
Well,
George
we
the.
didn't, I'm just kind of curious.
Oh yeah,
so-
we didn't have you choose who you would have been rooting for.
Yeah, that's what my thing is. Who were you rooting for during this match, Nate?
If you remember when you were a child.
I mean, it was a face heel thing. It definitely would have been Mr. Orndorff. He had gone face from WrestleMania 1 and was a good guy now, friends with Hogan. And
Right.
then later on, like the same year, he went heel again and ended up in a
Mhm.
steel cage match against Hogan.
Yeah.
But yeah. So yeah, it was Mr. Orndorff for me. That's what I was rooting for at the time.
What about
Okay.
you?
I don't remember this part. I think if I'm remembering back to WrestleMania 2 when I actually did see this. I did see this. I'm not sure if it was that actual Monday. When I saw it, it could have been like very delayed. Who knows when I would have seen it? Maybe it was one of those video rental ones, but I did see it, but I don't remember that. I think my memory of WrestleMania 2 was for the next match when Macho Man faces George the Animal Steele.
Okay. Well, I mean, I guess, or I think I'm rooting for Mr. Wonderful, but based solely on his appearance and physique,
And him being wonderful.
and him being wonderful.
In that robe.
Yeah.
All of these robes. There's
Yeah, there's a lot of
especially
robes.
coming up with the Macho Man. So we have him versus George the Animal Steele, and this is pretty much George is falling in love.
Freak out!
Yeah, George is falling in love with Miss Elizabeth, and
Yeah,
who
that was
at the time did not have we were growing up at the time, who did not have those lovey-dovey eyes for Miss Elizabeth, right?
Well, I just
Yeah.
have a question. I was excited to see Randy Macho Man Savage. Was this his first introduction? Because I don't recall seeing him in the first WrestleMania.
This is his first WrestleMania. He has just signed about a year ago after WrestleMania with Vince.
Okay.
And so, he was getting lots of matches here with his dad's promotion. Was it IWC?
IWA?
IWA or something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, and then eventually he gets bought out.
Well,
And-
he didn't get bought out. He basically got foreclosed on. Like he got a whole bunch of money for
Okay.
his promotion from like some other company.
Yeah,
and then
okay,
He
then
couldn't
I'm
pay
confusing.
it back.
Yeah, I was confusing that them with Stampede, where
Yeah.
Stu Hart sells his promotion to Vince, and then they end up getting the talent.
Okay.
So-
So, like you were saying, we were introduced to his manager, Elizabeth.
Right, who was at that point his IWC. Thank you, I was correct. Thank you, Raymond. At that point, who was his in real life I'm not sure if they were married but he was his in real life girlfriend, Miss Elizabeth.
They got married eventually. I'm not sure if they were married at this point.
Yeah. So, but when he first came in, they had like all the managers and the valets line up Bobby the Brain, Jimmy Hart, and Mr. Fuji to, I guess, try to offer the services to the Macho Man. And he told them, no, I choose this wonderful lady. Thank you. Yes, it was also Classy Freddie Blassie that was also in that lineup of managers.
Well, I just want to say, for those that know us, know that last year we actually dressed like Macho Man and Elizabeth. And our toddler was dressed as the little Macho Man.
Mhm.
So that was a pretty awesome experience. And there were a lot of people that recognized. They're like, "Are you Miss Elizabeth?" I didn't do her justice, but it was a lot of fun.
I mean, you'd have to wear one of those evening gowns. She was dressed like that for every match, every televised match. She was always like in an evening gown.
And she looked awesome.
Yeah.
So I mean, at that time, Macho Man was playing the abusive boyfriend role, kind of, and
right.
George Animal Steele. You know, what's weird about this one is it wasn't like weird for WrestleMania. It wasn't the culmination of the feud. It was really like the start of the feud.
Yeah, because it does keep going after this
for quite some time. And at one point, George Animal Steele straight up abducts Elizabeth from ringside.
Yeah,
and there's a whole match about that. And
I think it culminates at a Saturday night's main event or something like that.
A lot of it did back then, yeah. But no, there's, it. I really liked George Animal Steele when I was a kid,
right?
Okay.
And I was getting to that part too, Raymond. I really like George Animal Steele, the green tongue. So I wonder, did he eat a bunch of apple now or layers before he gets on the ring? And probably something along those lines.
It was some type of mint. I can't remember what the name was. It started with the C, like a Collet Mid or something like that.
That match was
found
a lot
that
of
in
fun.
my research, so he just pretty much stayed with that. Just like he actually started wrestling as a part-time thing while he was in college.
Oh wow!
And then there's a kind of conflicting kind of stories on how he got his name of George Steele. One of them was that when he was a assistant coach, the other coach that he was against was named George Steele. And then he's like, "Hey, that's a cool name. I'm into wrestling. Do you mind if I use that?" While at another one, Clorette's Mints. Thank you very much, Raymond. And then the other one is that he ended up getting it from one of the promoters that he was with, George Steele.
No relation to Danielle Steele, the author of those romantic novels?
No relation to Danielle Steele.
My mother always used to read those books growing up. We always had those books laying around.
So
I grew up with a kid that swore that George Animal Steele was his great uncle. Of course, I didn't believe him at the time because you heard all this stuff. But then his dad confirmed it later, and his dad was pretty hairy like that too.
Oh yeah.
So, and I still don't know the truth. Yeah, I still don't know the truth, but I know that George Animal Steele was, when in the territory days, he was a PE teacher in Michigan, right? And kids would recognize him once it started becoming, nationally syndicated and whatnot, and then bring up wrestling magazines and stuff and say, "Hey, is that you?" And he would just pull, "You think I look like that guy? What's wrong with you? You should be in trouble just for suggesting that." And I'm like, sorry.
That's awesome.
And then he'd fly to New York on the weekends or drive to New York on the weekends and do his matches and come back and be a PE teacher. Because these guys didn't make that much money back then.
They didn't.
A lot of them needed regular jobs to just survive. Right?
I get it. Whoa.
But in getting it to the match, both of them had their trademark maneuvers and gags. As Ray had mentioned, Macho Man did the flying double axe handle from the top rope to the floor. He ended up doing that a lot. I'm not really sure how much he did it before that. I wasn't really paying attention, but he did it a lot.
Yeah.
George Animal Steele, I think, ate a total of 2 or 3 turnbuckles. Right? Which was his gag. Yeah.
Well, he just, he rips off the turnbuckle, puts the filling in his mouth.
Wow. Wow.
That's
yeah.
it. He doesn't
Makes it
really
look
like.
good.
Yeah.
But one
You
of
know,
the
he's
gags
selling the
that's-
animal part, which eventually came out from what I was seeing. Like, I think Vince Jr. had told him, you know, because he was going by George the Animal, but he was making too much sense in his promotions and his vignettes and things like that. So he's
Yeah.
like, no one's gonna believe you're an animal if you're actually able to make complete coherent sentences.
Yeah.
What?
So he started going what ends up being like his
Aw. Not like
you
with
know.
the throat punches and the biting of the leg. That wasn't enough.
No, that wasn't enough because you have to sell your character. So if he's an animal, he can't be going meh, meh, and making like E equal MC square type of promos.
All that hair reminded me of that one part of the 40-Year-Old Virgin where he gets waxed.
Yeah.
I was like, that is a lot of body hair. But I love that story about him being a gym teacher
Mhm.
and then him being a wrestler and telling the kids that he is not the wrestler. That's awesome.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So this match goes 7 minutes,
Yeah.
10
At
seconds.
one point during the match, they're on the outside. George goes inside, and Macho Man pulls
Mhm.
under the ring gag.
Yes.
And this one always got me because he looks like down. He's like, "Where is he? Where is he? Like, where else could he go?" You know? And
Yeah.
he comes out the other side and hits him from behind. You know?
Exactly.
And
To get
even
the
as a
upper hand.
7-year-old kid, I'm there like, where else could he go? You
Mhm.
know? Like, come on now.
Yeah, Maria. Who were you rooting for, the animal on this one? Because it looks like they were going with like a King Kong type of storyline. King Kong wants the beauty, so he ends up taking her, and he climbs the Empire State Building type of
That
thing.
whole angle ended up getting really weird.
It
Because,
did.
like I said, he straight up abducted her, and
Yeah.
they made it like it was a good thing that he
Mhm.
abducted her. Like later on, like
Yeah.
What?
So
Well,
knowing that, were you still rooting for the animal, or were you rooting for the Macho Man?
I think as soon as I saw the Macho Man, I'm rooting for Macho Man all day. So I'm a big fan of the Macho Man. Yep.
Yeah.
Well,
And go
this
ahead.
might have been the first time that somebody kicked out of the big elbow.
Yes, it was noted that it was the first time that someone kicked out of the elbow from the top rope, which ends up being Macho Man's finisher for the rest of his career.
Finish
And
him.
now, would that also make it the first false finish in WrestleMania history?
I would believe so. I don't recall anyone kicking out of any type of finishers in the first WrestleMania. So yeah, this would have been one of those false finish type of things where you see
Which, as wrestling fan knows, became synonymous with just about every match at WrestleMania.
that and the
for
near
the last
falls.
like 15 years at least.
Wow.
So
yeah.
So you were team Macho Man. How about you said you were the animal?
At the time, yeah, like I
Okay.
really liked Macho Man. I liked
Yeah.
what he was doing. I recognized him. I was always excited to see his matches.
Mhm.
But like I said, it was a heel face thing. I'm 7 years old,
Yeah.
so of course I was rooting for the animal.
Oh yeah. I mean, it was exciting. I mean, with the bites and him ripping up the ring and
Yeah, it made for a good show,
It
more
did.
entertaining show, and you can see why it keeps going because it has that not clean finish where Macho uses the
Yeah.
ropes,
The cheap win, yeah.
is a cheap win. So of course, if George the Animal Steel is the protagonist, we got to have him try to get that win and get Elizabeth away from the Macho Man. So this has to keep going.
I think my favorite thing that the announcer said was like, look at the hair on that torso. He was doing a great job.
I think that was Vince, I think, right?
Was it Vince?
No, that would have been Susan St. James probably.
Yeah.
Said that one.
Susan, the wit on Susan St. James.
Nothing gets past her, huh?
Yeah. Now, in fairness,
Yeah.
she was on Kate and Alley in the 80s.
Yeah. I mean, did you watch
She was
that?
Kate.
Because
Kate and Alley.
I never watched
I
that
did,
show.
and I mean, I wouldn't call her like a huge lasting star, but she was well known at the time. Kathleen Lee Crosby was on like some reality type show at the time, but before that, she was Wonder Woman.
What?
Not
Not
Linda
Linda
Carter
Carter.
the Wonder Woman before that in the full bodysuit.
Oh, I
early
don't remember
70s.
that.
Yeah.
Wow.
I am a nerd of many cultures, and
That's
comic and
awesome.
TV is.
We all have our things that make us
Yeah, I was like, do I need to watch a
nerd
Kate and
over.
Allie?
So.
Because she's like, what is it?
I
Star.
wouldn't. I mean, it
like,
was her and Jane Curtin of Saturday Night Live fame and the Coneheads.
And Third Rock from the Sun.
Third Rock from the Sun. Yeah.
Wow.
Jane Curtin's had a pretty big career, and definitely overshadowed Susan St. James.
Mm-hmm.
I saw that later she was an activist, so I mean that's good.
Mm-hmm.
That was really good to hear. Yeah.
Our next match. Oh, yeah, I did say the time. It ran for 7 minutes. Okay, the next match we have is our Jake the Snake Roberts versus George Wells.
George Wells, and it's good to note that Susan St. James is not a fan of snakes. She said as much.
Oh, wow. That's good to know.
Wow.
I mean, there's
she
not
didn't
like
say a whole lot.
Well, that and
I was
pretty
curious, like what your thoughts
commentary.
were as far as her being,
who would be an actual fan of snakes besides Jake the Snake at that point? Maybe Satanist or some type of herpetologist.
If you're a fan of snakes, let us know in the comments below.
Please enlighten me on why I should like snakes too.
What are they? Gardener snakes?
Garden snakes?
Yeah, those are the only snakes that I'm willing to.
We plan to not
to get friendly with.
Oh God. Moving on. So we have I have never you seem to have kind of and excited hearing George Wells. Have you seen him before?
No, not at all.
Okay.
I know
you were selling that pretty good. I was like, oh, he knows George Wells. Maybe he knows something I don't, besides him being a former football player.
I had to do some research on him. He had like a floating career, but it didn't last very long. Yeah. He went to several different territories, and he retired shortly after this and became a drug counselor in the Bay Area.
Yeah, it is. So with this one,
drug counselors are fun.
Yeah, he should have. he should have helped out Jake the Snake on that one too.
There's a few of them he should have helped out on this.
Yeah, on this right. Part. So this is Jake the Snake's first WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Yeah, he gets he comes in from Stampede Wrestling as well, I believe.
Now, Jake, he's a second generation. There's long stored many documentaries on his history and his terrible history, his terrible childhood with his dad, all this stuff. But that being said, I always liked seeing Jake come in. I loved the gag with the snake. But as an adult, looking back, his whole ring psychology was almost second to none. Like the way he could just look at the camera a certain way and you could read everything. And the way he would look at opponents, his whole motion, his body movements, everything he did was just, it told a story with just looks. And that was great,
I think that's probably something that he gained from what I was looking here when he was paired up with Paul Ellering over there in with the Legion of Doom with Hawk and Paul Animal and who else did he have with them? King Kong Bundy was in that Legion of Doom. So I mean, you got you those guys. Paul Ellering had a very good storied career as a manager, for a great while. So
the first time I saw him, it was another huge match. It was the Road Warriors versus the Midnight Express in a scaffold match.
Wow.
Oh, okay.
And I remember seeing that as a kid, and that was unlike anything I ever saw. And even me and my brother, who wrestled a lot and did some crazy stuff, we said, "Yeah, we aren't doing that."
I mean, Road Warriors is an awesome name. So,
well, the Legion of Doom is that whole stable that was comprised of King Kong Bundy, Jake the Snake, and the Road Warriors.
Was it Dungeon of Doom?
Well, according to the Wikipedia, it said Legion of Doom.
Okay. Dungeon of Doom was oh no, that was the one with that was terrible.
Dungeon of Doom.
Early WCW. Yeah, that was bad.
Or my next band name.
Kevin Sullivan and
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They couldn't use Road Warriors. Why, was it a movie or?
No, because that wasn't the Road Warriors that Raymond is pointing out right here is because that was a name, a stage name, gimmick name that was coming out when they were in Georgia Championship Wrestling. Okay. So I guess Dusty Rhodes or somebody would have had the rights to that name at that point.
They trademarked a lot of stuff mainly for merchandise back then and for other reasons as well.
Mm-hmm.
But merchandise was a big one.
Graffiti
and they still do it to this day.
Oh, yeah, definitely. That's why some of them, the wrestlers now go by their actual legal name to avoid having someone like Vince or someone else take on their money or likeness, take their likeness or anything like that.
And for a while, Vince stopped letting people do that. I mean, Bryan Danielson had to be Daniel Bryan so that Vince could trademark that name.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that is crazy. So, I mean, is he still doing that or
Vince?
Yeah.
Oh,
He let up somewhat because there are some people that have come in and are allowed to use the real names.
Because they've made their names like on the indies, the independent wrestling scenes, or
so
with other
Bryan
wrestling
Danielson.
promotions. That you know, that if you want the audience to follow them or come along with you with them being re-signed, you got to keep the name because then they might get lost if they're not.
Good to know. So when I go into professional wrestling, what you're telling me is that I should use my just real first and last name. Noted. Thank you.
Yeah. So this match only goes. Who are you going for?
Who do you think I was rooting for?
Jake the Snake?
I was. Also a commitment to the character. I like the snakes that were on his pants. So.
Oh yeah, he was all that, and I think he had snake boots, right? Wrestling boots. Maybe not here, boots. But eventually he does get like that type of I guess snake leather or whatever.
Yeah, and I believe this was the first snake I saw him carry out. This was Damien. That's I still think was the OG snake that Jake the Snake had. He had a king cobra at one point. That's the one that fit Macho Man.
Yeah.
And then he got another python later.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm gonna switch this. I'm a fan of George Wells in this match.
Okay. So you were probably disappointed that this match only went 3 minutes and some change, and that Jake and Snake pretty much wins decisively.
Yeah, I mean,
until
I know
George Wells is foaming at the mouth.
Yeah,
from the snake.
Yeah,
that was like an Alka-Seltzer tab that they ended up probably giving him or something like that.
Something like, or he's very talented with his spit.
Yeah. That foamed up pretty good. I was like, oh my god, I was really concerned for him too.
I feel like I've seen way too many videos where there is a python and then it just goes really quickly, where it latches on and starts strangling people. So I was a little concerned for him.
Yeah, some people pay extra for that type of action.
Have you seen that show where they're hunting pythons in Florida? It's really good, really funny.
Oh, you're talking about the Craig Robinson show on Peacock, where he has a failed business and he's trying to make money. So this Uber driver convinces him to go python hunting.
What are they like in season 2?
It's very funny. I don't know when it's coming out though.
I can't wait.
They did announce a season 2, so
it's a really good show.
Now, as for me, even though I was still rooting for Macho Man, even though he was
and who I mean, even though Macho Man wasn't here, we were still root for the Macho Man.
Yeah. Now, in this rewatch, I did not remember George Wells. I did not know who he was. I literally had to look him up afterwards. Who he was, but I figured it was what they did a lot on regular television, which was the jobber match. Like, you would have the way a lot of them were back in the day. It was like this next match is scheduled for one fall. It has a time limit of 10 minutes, right? Introducing first John Smith, right? And just some guy in trunks, and then coming down the aisle, and then whoever was coming down the aisle, you knew was going to win.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until these big like events, and there were other big events besides WrestleMania at the time. Like Saturday Night Main Event was usually a bigger one. You didn't see like two of those coming down the aisle superstars wrestling each other until those.
Wow.
Right.
There was all kinds of buildup. But that goes into another thing that was weird about this WrestleMania. Most of this buildup was like lasted a month, and that was it.
Wow.
You know,
Okay.
it wasn't
Well,
until
I mean, I think that's because of the whole thing where Vince had just bought out Stampede.
even
And
then,
Macho and Jake the Snake had only premiered or debuted about a month before WrestleMania came out.
even then, he learned how to do it right later when he ended up buying
Yeah.
out WCW, because when he bought WCW, he let them all put them all on ice for a while until he could build up matches for the bigger
Yeah, you
events.
got to do a reset. You have to pretty much see where you could bring them in and things like that. Because if you start just flooding the market and then people just get lost in the shuffle, and then the talent gets unhappy, and then they're like, "Well, I want out of my contract," which we've seen many a time, especially in WCW later on. You know, when it starts getting flooded with people that are fleeing Vince because he doesn't want to pay them, and you know, Ted Turner down south is pretty much giving away lots of money.
Well, he's giving away guaranteed money.
Yeah,
which at the time, which Vince wasn't doing at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And also for less days.
Mm-hmm.
Like Vince still had you doing like 300 days a year at the time, and you know Ted Turner was talking. Eric Bischoff really was talking, working for Ted Turner.
Yeah.
Was talking like 180. You know,
yeah, which is like, you know, hey, I get to only have to be out on the road for like maybe 6 months instead of being out there for 10 months or 11 months, depending on how my
it was a better deal.
My story is going at the time. Oh.
You all forgot to talk about one of my favorite celebrities, Joan Rivers.
That's what we're getting to right now, because Joan Rivers, we get to
don't forget about Joan.
Yeah,
we get to the main event coming up in the New York
of Uniondale, New York.
Yeah, which is the boxing match of Roddy Piper versus Mr. T.
I was disappointed.
So this is a feud that kind of crossed over from WrestleMania. Piper.
This one, okay, so this feud went into the real world. They had real animosity for each other, because basically Roddy Piper is old school, and him and a lot of other wrestlers didn't appreciate people from outside the business coming into their business, because they were really protective. This is the kayfabe days where they're really protective of everything that happens within the business and keeping hush hush on everything. So when somebody like Mr. T comes in, I mean, I think Roddy Piper's quoted in a later video saying, when somebody did that back then, I was going to eat their lunch, because that's just how it was. And Mr. T didn't really understand all of that. No. So they developed like a real animosity towards each other that culminated in this. But of course, Roddy Piper had much, much better promos, because if we're going to talk about the Mount Rushmore of heels in WWE or WWF or whatever you're calling it nowadays, Roddy Piper belongs there for sure.
Oh, definitely.
He was the top heel of the time for sure.
He knew how to incense a crowd.
But he did some things that are questionable. For example, earlier on this, he shaved the Haiti Kid's head into a mohawk. Yeah. And the Haiti Kid is a little person. So on television, he shaved a little person's head into a mohawk, right? He said...
Wow.
Thank you, Raymond, for repeating with being Nate's echo here.
Yeah, right. So on top of that, right, in an earlier promo in the same night, he says, if Mr. T knocks me out, hold on, I have it written down here. I got to quote it for verbatim, right? He said, he was like, I'll quit boxing, I'll quit wrestling, I'll quit tiddlywinks, and I'll quit dating girls if I get knocked out.
That's what I'm like, what are when he said tiddlywinks, I'm like, just everything. Okay.
Yeah, tiddlywinks are those like metal things.
Is that what tiddlywinks
like jacks, and then you had to bounce a ball and pick it up, I think.
No, it was these discs. They were like plastic pogs.
Remember? Oh, okay.
You had to take one disc and make the other one jump into like a cup. Like,
wow.
That was tiddlywinks, as I recall.
don't think I've ever played with tiddlywinks. Have you?
Oh yeah,
no, I've never done that.
I knew
it was just like a saying.
Oh my god. Okay, thank you. I mean, Nate was in the middle of saying that as the time that you were typing it, Raymond.
Okay, so for like a wrestling fan novice like myself, you
He-
said
now,
K5 or
there's
K.
Kayfabe.
What is kayfabe?
Kayfabe.
So those of us that aren't familiar with wrestling, no.
Do you want to take this, Carlos, or do you want me to?
Kayfabe is basically
Or is Ray already writing it?
probably. I don't know how fast, but it's essentially the storyline that the wrestler or the promoter or whomever's actually out there
Okay.
selling you the storyline. Like the announcers are also ones that are selling you the storyline
Mhm.
on what views you should have on the match or on a particular wrestler. So that's the story that they're selling you, kayfabe. So that's when the wrestler is living the kayfabe life. That means that whenever that camera's on, especially back in those days, but some wrestlers went a little bit deeper, like Roddy Piper, where even when the camera was off and they were off on their day off or whatever, and some fan came up to him and be like, hey, they were still in that character. They never broke the character. And sometimes it became a little controversial because, you know, people want that experience. They're like, hey, I met Roddy Piper, but if you're coming out like he would, coming off like the heel that he is, then you're not gonna come back and talk about that experience. You're gonna be like, wow, that guy was a big a-hole.
Wow.
There
Thank
are
you.
some legendary examples of this too. I didn't say leave. Right?
No, not this time.
There's some legendary examples, right?
Yeah.
Of kayfabe. For example, Nikita Koloff in Georgia champion. I think he was in Georgia at the time. He was actually from Georgia, right? But he spoke in a Russian accent everywhere
Mhm.
for 6 years.
Oh wow.
Married a woman that did not know he was not from Russia.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like there was somebody else like that too, but I can't think.
Yeah. Ric Flair was on a plane crash with another guy who was a face, and he died in that plane crash. And Ric Flair wrestled with a broken back for like 3 weeks, so no one would even think he was on the same plane as the guy that passed away.
Wow.
Minnesota.
Oof.
Thank you, Ray. Sorry about that.
Minnesota.
Yeah.
We like Minnesota.
So yeah, there's lots of stories where kayfabe has been put up on the forefront and sometimes gone a little bit too far when it goes into the public. But you know, it's something that I think sometimes with now it makes it a little bit more harder. But one that's that's pushing that kayfabe gimmick, I think real good right now is MJF over there at AEW. So there are still wrestlers that actually still follow that kayfabe 100%.
Yeah, there is a bit.
So this is a boxing match, Maria, between Piper and Mr. T?
There's something else Roddy Piper said to take note of. He also said in this promo that if he loses, he will paint himself black and shave his head like an Indian.
So we're talking about the fourth match?
Yeah, we're talking about the fourth match
Mr. T versus
pay-per-view. Out of this, I believe there's 12 matches total.
Yeah, I was surprised to see boxing. Is that an always, or is that just like a one-time?
No, it was pretty much because of Mr. T had experience as a boxer.
Okay.
And
no, it was because Mr. T couldn't wrestle.
Well, yeah, but
it looked better being a fake boxer.
Yeah,
like
but
Clubber
he
Lang.
had some experience, so they were trying to Vince still trying to get like the mainstream audience is trying to get Mr. T to at least be somewhat of a contributing factor to his WrestleManias.
Okay.
They look better than he did in WrestleMania.
Yeah. So he, Mr. T wants to look good, and he's like, Vince, well, I pity the fool who wants to box me, so I'm gonna go ahead and get some boxing in.
Icon, Mr. T.
So they managed to talk him into a boxing match, and this boxing match goes all the way into the fourth round,
which Mr. T is blown up by the third.
Yeah, I think Piper looks gassed too because they throw themselves a few little haymakers back and forth, especially in the beginning of the fourth round. They stand toe to toe and they're just throwing haymakers back and forth with each other. But I think they just called the match there, Piper and just let's get this because we're not gonna make it to the 10 rounds, so let's just call it here, right? That's what it looked like to me.
Well, I think it was supposed to be a schmoz no matter what. I mean, I don't think they were going to take it to G. Gordon Liddy and Cab Calloway and Chocolate Thunder for the scorecard.
You didn't want to hear Cab Calloway sing his decision?
Yeah, right. Heidi, Piper.
Fun fact that Chocolate Thunder, that name was bestowed upon him by Stevie Wonder.
Daryl Dawkins, the Philadelphia 76er.
Yeah. And it's funny that you say that Mr. T wasn't a good boxer, because I guess me as like a newbie watching, I thought Mr. T had more finesse during that match.
Well, he probably learned something from Joe Frazier. He had Smoking Joe Frazier, Titino.
I saw this match as Clubber Lang versus Sam Hell. So,
enlighten my wife on Sam Hell.
Huh?
Enlighten my wife on Sam Hell.
Sam Hell.
So
you said this was Clubber Lang versus Sam Hill?
Are you like, what is Sam Hell?
Yeah.
No. Roddy Piper, most people, if you don't know him from wrestling, you would know him from the movie They Live. Less people know him from the movie Hell Comes to Frogtown.
Wow.
Where he played Sam Hell. And it's very underground cult. Well, I wouldn't say very underground, but it's an underground cult movie from the 80s as well.
Okay.
It was his follow-up to They Live.
I did not know that was a follow-up to They Live. I always thought that they just
no, it was his follow-up. It wasn't like a sequel.
Okay. That's the movie he did after They Live. Got it.
Right.
Okay. So at this point, just moves on to Chicago. So we have
another thing I want to bring up is about the mystery thing. He comes out with Smoking Joe Frazier, right?
Right.
A big name. First one had Muhammad Ali, but they got Smoking Joe, right? But when he's coming down the aisle with Mr. T, he has this look on his face. And I'm thinking, poor Smoking Joe, because he just has this look on his face like, oh man, what has Smoking Joe got himself into now? Because
he did. But I guess that paycheck was pretty good because he convinced himself pretty good. He's like, well, I'm gonna get paid, right? So
he did.
Let's get through this pay-per-view. I don't really have to do anything. Just tell Mr. T to go back out there.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, there was a lot going on during that boxing match. I'm like, just a little bit too much.
It was the New York main event. And now bear in mind, so with the tape delays and the time change and everything, if you were at the LA event live, you actually watched the third part of WrestleMania live first and then watched the rest on tape delay.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I didn't know how that worked. Well, I thought maybe they actually, but that makes sense, is that you watch your part. They probably had WrestleMania on maybe like at 6 or 7 their logo time. And New York saw it live.
Also disappointed that Ronnie didn't have any of his pipers with him. What happened?
I mean, well, Vince had blown most of his budget on Joe Frazier, probably.
Yeah, he had Lou Duva.
Yeah.
Olympic boxing coach Lou Duva, and of course Cowboy Bob Orton with no cast.
Yeah, no cast this time. So
yeah, his arm finally healed after 20 years or whatever.
Wow. They send us to Chicago, who we have Mean Gene as one of the announcers there.
Gorilla Monsoon, Mean Gene, and
the interview.
Kathy Lee Crosby.
Yeah. So this is the same Kathy Lee that becomes Kathy Lee Gifford, right?
No way.
I didn't look this up.
No, they're different. Yeah,
nope. Okay.
They are.
Not.
I
do
was
all
curious.
Kathy Lees look alike or something to you?
Well, I mean the name. I was just going based on the name. I didn't even bother to do any research.
Too. I was curious. I'm like, is this Kathy Lee Gifford? No, it's not. Different actress.
Another actress. Okay. So we get this Velvet McIntyre versus
not Drew's mom.
No, not Drew's mom. Not related to Drew, even though she is from Ireland. not related to the current WWE superstar Drew McIntyre.
Oh, okay. I thought you were gonna say Drew Carey.
No, but at this point in time, she's facing the Fabulous Moolah. Who the Fabulous Moolah, I believe, if I did my math correctly, would have been around 62, 63 years old.
It doesn't matter. She was born old. So
Oh,
I was like, love the match. Somebody's mom is in the ring
with their mom or their grandma.
with their grandma.
This match is, of course, really short because that was kind of her shtick. This is coming off the original screw job with.
I also found out that it ended up being short, and if you pay attention to the pin, and they're holding each other close, and the reason for that is because Velvet has a wardrobe malfunction.
Oh,
I still could not see it because the camera angles was terrible, but that's what they ended up saying in the Wikipedia
all of her
page.
matches between the Wendy Richter thing, and this was like a 4-month period between this happened or something like that.
Yeah,
all of her matches, she was playing that up with the pins like that, like where she just covers them, and because that was keeping to the shtick of that's how she wrestled, because that's how she had to do Wendy, because that kept with the kayfabe.
Okay.
Yeah, Madame Moolah. And yeah, I'm going to say Madame Moolah because she was kind of a pimp. She, like, seriously, like,
no,
there's a scandal.
Yeah.
There's a scandal with her. Yeah, like
in her wrestling school that she had.
Yeah.
Wow.
It could have been attributed that maybe that's the way that she was brought into the biz, because from looking back in her history, that's what pretty much all the promoters told her, that in order for. Yeah, it don't make it right, but I mean, to her, she's starting her wrestling school. You know, you figure that, you know, she claims that all of these promoters had told her that's the way that the business ran, and in order for her to get business for her promotion, she had to do other favors to the people who were trying to get their talent to go over there.
Wow, wrestling. Some people say it's fake, but it's getting real.
Well, but even with that said, when it comes to in the ring kayfabe, she was a consummate professional. And she wanted to keep that storyline going, because that was now how that she, as Fabulous Moolah, the character, wrestled now because of the Wendy Richter thing.
Yeah, and she was a big proponent of advancing women's wrestling and getting women's wrestling over there.
Did. She made her more money.
Yeah, that, and she did have a trial against the New York Athletic Commission to actually get women's wrestling to be allowed in Madison Square Garden, because at that point in time, until like 1981 or 82, it had been banned from actually being part of Madison Square Garden. So she not only
thought it was too risque,
maybe, but not only did she manage to get that ban taken away, but she also, of course, wrestled in the first women's match in Madison Square Garden.
Well, I mean, if you're wondering, my money was on Moolah. I was like,
yeah, we were gonna get to that, but we took a tangent. So when you were not a fan of Velvet McIntyre with the bare feet.
No, I thought it was a short match, like you said, but I thought it was a good match.
It just pretty much showed that Moolah was
Wow, Moolah, very disappointing to hear.
No, that's true.
Problematic Moolah.
So so Moolah pretty much got herself over. She made herself look strong compared to the young Velvet McIntyre that was probably like 40 years her junior at that time, and she got the win.
So I'm wondering, is like Moolah at that time slang for money?
Oh yeah,
you know how they're like all about the moolah.
Yeah,
that's been slang for money since like the 20s.
Wow,
yeah. That was an old school word.
That's how old Nate is. You know,
yeah, right.
Time traveling Nate.
Yeah, right.
So with that quick match, that leads us to the flag match, which has Nikolai Volkoff.
The token flag match.
Yeah.
Now there's a backstory, a funny story that happens with this, right? Around that time in East Germany, right? There, the KGB, the Cold War had been going on for some time, right? And this was before the fall of the Berlin Wall. And so in East Germany, there's this KGB agent, and he's seeing things on America, and he sees Nikolai Volkoff singing the Russian national anthem to Americans and how the Americans boo him and get so mad about it. And he just learns to hate and despise America as a result of exactly that.
Wow.
That
I was
man's
curious
name
about
is
the politics.
Vladimir Putin.
Wow. No. I was like, dun, 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 dun.
Yeah, Putin hates us because of
you
Volkoff.
had my wife hooked on that one.
I was like, oh no.
She was believing that kayfabe.
I was like, I like an origin story, but that one, woo.
Yeah, right.
I was like, that is deep.
That is correct.
Yeah, Kirchner was
Raymond Kirchner was a paratrooper, and that's pretty much how he got the attention of not only Vince McMahon, but it was of Hulk Hogan.
Well, I mean,
who was wrestling with AWA with Vern Gagne, who at that time was the promoter of that Minneapolis, Minnesota wrestling territory. And he met him up at a gym, randomly working out. And Hulk Hogan's like, "Hey, brother, you look pretty fit. I think you can make some money wrestling." And he took him to Vern Gagne, and he went into the Vern Gagne School of Wrestling. And eventually he catches Vince Jr.'s eye. And first, they have him working a few matches as an enhancement talent. And then eventually Vince finds out that he was in the 82nd Airborne. So he's like, "Hey, let's use your military background and get you a military gimmick." And so he ends up being Corporal Kirchner.
Well, I just
and
want to
whitewash
say,
the Samoan drop.
Yes.
Well, I just want to do a shout out to the paratroopers because someone very close to my heart is airborne and a paratrooper. My uncle, my Tío Alberto. So I have a place in my heart.
Shout out to the 82nd Airborne and all you airborne troopers and anyone who has served and is serving currently that are watching the stream. Thank you very much for your support. Stay safe. And this match only goes about 1:40.
Very short too. Here's another fun fact, and this is totally true. The big wrestling rubber figures that came out on the ice, the very first one I ever had was Corporal Kirchner.
Really?
Wow.
Not from choice. It's because I found it loose at a Family Dollar and they sold to me for 50 cents.
Wow.
Wow.
It was out of the package and they were just like, 50 cents is yours. I'm like,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Top that one, Arpad.
Oof.
But this one ends up with let's see, Nikolai is trying to catch the cane that Freddie Blassie throws in, but the Corporal snatches it out of the air and hits Nikolai and costs him.
While the ref is down, the schmoz backfired.
Yeah.
What a story. He was falsely reported dead by WWE in 2006.
I'm assuming you're talking about Kirchner on that one, huh, Raymond?
In relation to, let's not talk about him.
Who? Oh, I'm like, wait a minute. I had to take a little break. I'm like, who? Oh, okay.
Yeah. So who are you rooting for?
On this one, I was I like I said, I don't remember this. Like seeing this as a kid, I only seen I just remember parts and pieces. I remember the Macho Man. I remember the boxing match. I remember the battle royal that they end up having, which is after I think right after this, the 20-man battle royal of superstars and NFL players.
Mm-hmm.
And then I remember the cage match. So I've either blocked all of those crappy matches that I think are crappy matches in my head, or I might have been falling asleep by then, taking little cat naps here and there, because, as short as these matches are that I'm looking at in this rewatch, like revisiting WrestleMania 2 or all of these both of these WrestleManias so far, is that as they seem like they go by fast, but as a kid it seemed like they took forever.
Wow.
I think we're just used to longer matches at an event like this now. It's a symptom of our conditioning at this point.
So I've been watching the product for so long that we're just so used to it.
Also, there's a chance that this was heavily edited because there were lots of mistakes that made the cut. We don't even know what didn't make the cut.
Mm-hmm.
And things they just edited out and things that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, because unless we managed to get these on videotape or getting on DVD before he started uploading them and editing them for wide general public consumption. Because that's why we
Yeah.
get that racial thing that gets done to Mr. Fuji, taken out and things like that in
Yeah.
reverse. So
Do we have any comments about Okerlund being the announcer, WWE Hall
Mean
of
Gene.
Fame?
No, I don't. Mean Gene is pretty much a rock throughout this whole time.
At one point, he says, "You can cut the electricity with a knife."
Yeah.
I caught that.
Did you catch that too? Is that what you brought it up?
I'm just curious because I was like, they say that he's like one of the best of all time.
He was a
so-
great interviewer, but
Yeah.
you try to make him do anything else, like what we saw in WrestleMania
Sing.
1, where he tried to sing the national anthem and did not know apparently what how that finished. And
around that time, there was an album out there called, I think it was called Pile Driver, and
Okay.
it was like all kinds of wrestlers singing. At the time, Vince even had a song on there called "Stand Back."
wow.
And yeah, it was like an album with all these wrestlers.
Wait, is
singing.
that the one where he's on stage and then they make a music video and he's kind of dancing?
That was actually a performance at the Slammy Awards
Yeah.
from that album. It's the same
Okay.
song.
Okay. There you go. So we're gonna move on here to the 20-man battle royal, where we get some local Chicago guests to reel in the fans.
Including Dick Butkus,
Yeah.
one of the best names in football history. Dick Butkus.
Yeah. Hall of Fame linebacker for the Chicago Bears, Dick Butkus, as a outside guest referee for this battle royal. We also had Too Tall Jones. We have the Where's the Beef lady as the guest timekeeper.
How did she say it?
She didn't get to say it because they had an audio issue.
And if you look at her leaf, she's not saying "Where's beef?" She's saying "I found the beef."
Oh,
what beef did
she might? She might not have been allowed to say "Where's the beef?"
Wow,
we don't know.
That's a good one.
Yeah. So in this battle royal, which is different compared to how they do the Royal Rumbles now, everyone got announced and they get in the ring.
Yeah,
which
it's
to me made it too chaotic.
That's how battle royals. I mean, they still have battle royals like that, and it's an
Yeah.
over the top rope battle royal that you get thrown out. Andre had wrestled tons of battle royals and won them all.
Yeah, I mean, and we can ask Maria, but I'm pretty sure her answer was going to be like, I expected Andre the Giant to win. But once you saw all these people come out, did you have someone that you thought would beat Andre the Giant? Yeah, because we had the Chicago Bears, Jimbo Covert, we had the Fridge, we had the Iron Sheik, we had Hillbilly Jim, Pedro Morales, Tony Atlas, Ted Arcidi, Jim the Anvil Neidhart. I think I might have said it. We got Bruno Sammartino, which I believe I had said
daddy,
that.
Right? He's somebody's daddy.
Yeah, he was the son of Danny Sammartino that was in WrestleMania 1 that I said it looks like they were prepping him to come back, but Bruno was insisting that he was not going to come back, that he was just there. But eventually, I get
up there in age. I mean, he had a school in Pittsburgh at the time too. I mean, he did a lot in Pittsburgh. He trained Larry Zbyszko. He did a lot.
Yes, that's true. We had a King
Tonga. They stole my line. I want to say that's the third time that happened.
Yeah, I was overwhelmed by the amount of people that were in the ring. I mean, 20 people in that ring at that time. That was a lot of people. So I wasn't sure that Andre was going to win until like maybe mid match. He was chopping. He was throwing people out of the ring. He was awesome.
I gotta throw a note I have here just because Raymond brought up. I actually have a note here that says breaking kayfabe, King Tonga / Haku / Ming would kill everyone. Andre legit feared him and Harley Race.
You and Arpad are twinning.
Yeah, we are. Well, we've talked about this a lot in the past as well.
Yeah. Oh, we got this win. So did I predict that right? You were cheering for Andre?
I mean, you did because, like I said, I thought as soon as I saw him come into the ring, I'm like, I think it's gonna be Andre, but I wasn't sure because there were just so many people in the ring.
Mm-hmm.
But he was awesome. Paid attention to him, of course, during the whole match. And like I said, he was just giving people like chops in the neck, throwing people out. I mean, he was great.
Yeah. I also have here Killer Bees did Twin Magic before it was cool,
Oh,
right?
Killer Bee.
Because they had that gimmick. I don't know if you're familiar with the Bella Twins, Maria,
Yes.
but how they did the whole
And
Twin Magic
their
in the ring.
trunks.
The Killer Bees had the same tights and the
outfits and
same
trunks.
mask, and one of them would go into the ring, the other one would come back in, and
Wow.
that was the first people I saw do that.
I was surprised that
Wow.
Twin Magic still worked with the Bella Twins once the other one got enhanced.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that was okay, but that's suspension of disbelief there.
Mm.
I also thought it was a waste of talent putting Bret Hart in this match, and apparently he did too, because he said later
Yeah,
that he was actually supposed to have a match with Steamboat at WrestleMania 2,
yeah.
and they canceled it and gave Steamboat the match with Hercules Hernandez in
Yeah.
LA, and put Bret in this match with Jim the Anvil.
Mm-hmm.
And I also think it was I think Bruno Sammartino could have been better used in like more
Oh
of a
yeah,
singles
I
match.
thought maybe it probably would have been better to have him and Andre go at it, but I guess
So neither of them could lose if that was like that. That's not necessarily good.
well, I
That could
would
be
have added
very
someone
bad
like
for
a
each
third
other's
one.
character.
You gotta with them being like two faces, you would have to add like a third heel, third person heel to throw one of them out. But I'm just saying that's probably how I would have booked that one or something like that. Just to Andre still wins, but you still have those two guys, and eventually, and the way the WrestleMania 3 starts leading, where Andre ends up being kind of like a heel at that point, you probably could have started planting the seeds.
There's more. There's between that too. So immediately after this, pretty much immediately after this, like less than a month, right? There was a tag team match both King Kong Bundy and Big John Studd versus Andre the Giant and a partner of his choosing. Andre the Giant no showed, and this is the kayfabe portion, right? So Bobby Heenan insisted he should be suspended because of that, right? Now in reality, Andre was starting to have health problems, right? Which is what not only the same health problems that not only made him famous, but ended up killing him, right? His back was going out, things like that. And in this time, he also had a tour of Japan planned, but he was also filmed The Princess Bride in that time, right?
Wow.
And when he actually came back to action, they were still playing up the suspension gimmick, and they put him under a mask with Axe from Demolition, who wasn't Axe yet, but they were the machines, right? And it was the Giant Machine and the Super Machine, right? And they were from the Orient, right? Right? That's where they built them from, the Orient. Now you ended up having other people come into the machine stable. You had Hulk Machine, wonder who that was under the mask, Piper Machine, right? They brought another one. It was Big Machine. That was actually Blackjack Mulligan, right? But anyway, there was a promo later on that Bobby Heenan, I think it was the Body Shop. It was one of those talk segment shows. He comes out and he says, "I've brought in these new wrestlers from Korea," and it was King Kong Bundy and Big John Studd with paper bags over their heads, right? Right? And they said, "We're going to unmask the machines at our next match with them in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania." And I was there. I was at that. I was at that event.
That's
So
pretty
that was
cool.
the only time I got to see Andre live.
Wow.
And he was under a mask.
Wow.
Yeah. But I mean, who else is going to be 7'4" and speak with a French accent and over 500 pounds?
That's true.
Right?
Like Andre.
And that was part of the whole game. It was really funny, the whole thing. But that's some of the aftermath that happened after this, because I think this is the last time he wrestled until all of that. Yeah.
Until he starts getting that build for WrestleMania 3.
Yeah. WrestleMania 3, right when he finally turned heel. Bobby Heenan had the suspension lifted in kayfabe, had the suspension lifted from President Jack Tunney so that he could have him wrestle Hulk Hogan at WrestleMania 3. But when people got hurt, like for real too back then, it wasn't like today, and you had to be somebody like Andre the Giant to actually get time off too. And we'll get into more of that later.
Mhm.
But with some other things that are going on, and but yeah, going back to what you were originally asking, Maria, about, upon my rewatch, I was thinking it's going to be Andre in the fridge at the end with Andre beating the fridge, because
Yeah.
I think that's how they would book it now, is
Right.
have the major local celebrity
Yes.
make it that
Okay.
far, and then, but then of course, I mean, it's Andre the Giant,
Yeah.
but they would be friendly about it and everything.
I mean, but also the fridge, also an icon, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
For in
Well,
Chicago football.
not
For
as
Chicago
iconic as the
football.
Steeler that was in the same match, but I'm just saying.
Mhm.
Okay,
I was like, my
okay,
dad
so-
talks about the fridge. That's why I'm like,
Well,
in all
like
seriousness, though,
local Chicago, but go ahead.
in all seriousness, when I was a kid, it was a little bit later than this, I was gifted my very first football jersey. Guess who it was?
was it the fridge?
Nope.
No.
Oh,
Mean Joe?
Nope.
Oh, nice.
who is that?
This is
Mike
a
Singletary.
vintage 80s Wilson Mike
Ooh.
Singletary jersey. Where's the tag?
I
There's
saw
the
it's
tag.
right there. Yeah.
Wow.
Get it in front of the camera.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
Okay, I won't pick on you.
Anyway,
about your old.
Yeah.
About my old.
About your
Yeah,
old.
I'm showing off all
jerseys.
my old clothes today because I got the
Yeah.
vintage Macho Man shirt.
Wow.
Yeah. Which I was
Vintage
planning to wear
Singletary.
my Macho Man shirt. It's not as vintage as yours, but it's the
We
same
could have
type
pulled
of
twin
style.
magic on Maria.
Well, mine's purple. Yours,
Yeah.
so
I would
I
have
got the
had to
pink
grab
one.
my wig and then
yeah, wouldn't be able to pull that one off from far away. So let's see here. So yeah, that would have been a good one. So I mean, the only thing I also pointed out here is that the Anvil doing a little bit of overselling on some of those moves that Andre was pulling on him.
Yeah, not the biggest overselling of the night though.
No, that's true. We do get that.
I'll get to what I thought was the biggest overselling in the night when we get
Yeah.
there.
And so that leads us to our next match, which is
The main event of Chicago.
No, we still got the British Bulldogs.
Yeah, that's the main
Well,
event.
no,
of the
that was the
Chicago
main
portion.
event of Chicago. Now we're moving on to Los Angeles, the
So
city
that's
of
the
No, well, we
angels.
did. No, we didn't talk about British Bulldogs.
Yeah,
And-
that's next right now.
yeah, that's next. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but the main event was the Battle Royal.
No,
wasn't it?
nope. British Bulldogs. And,
Oh, so this was the main event. Was
versus
the
the
British
Dream Team.
Bulldogs?
That was in
and
Chicago.
Hammer-
Yeah.
Okay, so we got the tag titles on the line when we had the British Bulldogs, Kid Dynamite and Davey Boy Smith versus the team of Greg the Hammer Valentine with
Yeah.
Brutus Beefcake, still not the barber, was Brutus Beefcake with Johnny Valiant as their manager.
And hey, who replaced Matilda to come in with who brought in the British Bulldogs? We're gonna talk about Johnny Valiant.
Was
We
it
had Captain
Johnny
Lou Albano
Oh.
and Ozzy Osbourne.
Osbourne? Yes, thank you, Raymond. It's the Dynamite Kid, not Kid Dynamite. Thank
Now,
you.
I personally like to
Yes.
think that Ozzy Osbourne and the Iron Sheik did all the cocaine and all the Chicago after this match and left the city dry for months.
You
That's
think
what's
so, right?
happening in my mind's eye. That I like to think happened.
I mean, either that or they just took a plane and probably went off to Los Angeles or Las Vegas afterwards.
I was hoping to
Because
hear
it's so
more.
it's so
from-
close to O'Hare Airport, so they probably just would have been like,
it is close to her.
I didn't get enough
Maybe.
of Ozzy Osbourne. I thought he would speak more. or
Yeah, I
hear a
thought
little
he
bit
would,
more from
like,
him.
he would actually bite off a bat's head or something like that. But I love Rose Maharaja. Really, it is amazing that he actually outlived both of them.
It's amazing that he outlived a
He
lot of
actually
people.
outlived still
He
outlived
outlived
the Iron
Lemmy.
Sheik and
I
everybody too.
didn't think he'd outlive Lemmy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, fun fact about Maria. One of my favorite songs is Crazy Train, right?
Yeah, you love Crazy Train.
Rest in peace,
And-
Randy Rhoads.
Yeah. I was like, I like to listen to that on occasion in the morning on the way to work.
That's Jakey Lee.
So
I don't
once
know.
you saw the British Bulldogs in tow with Ozzy Osbourne and their mascot Matilda.
Okay.
And once again, you were a fan of Greg the Hammer Valentine when WrestleMania 1 appeared, and Brutus Beefcake. So were you kind of torn as to who you were going to root for? Because you do kind of tend to go with the faces, not as much as like the heels, the rudos, the bad guys.
I'm a fan of Brutus Beefcake.
Oh, okay.
Was wondering where the lady that said, "Where's the beef?" Because
you should have had her held out that lady for the beefcake when he was walking through, and then she could have said, "There, I found it."
I thought it would have been appropriate, but missed opportunity.
Really?
You know, she was an octogenarian when she became famous with that line.
Oh, okay. Did not know that.
Yeah. Spoiler alert. This is the only title change of the night.
Yes, that is correct. So, I mean, and it doesn't look like the bump looks kind of weird. As far as, because the Dynamite Kid is kind of like on the turnbuckle. And
Yeah,
then
he was playing.
I don't know if he was like reaching for a tag or he was trying to come in from like some type of aerial move from the turnbuckle. But how this match ends is Davey Boy throws the hammer into the turnbuckle. The Dynamite Kid goes flying. Then because of the turnbuckle or the hammer being thrown in the turnbuckle, he kind of collapses and Davey Boy falls on top of him. 1, 2, 3. So it did not look like that was the actual call to end the match. But the decision they went with, I think.
I'm pretty sure the Bulldogs were going to go over no matter what.
Okay.
You can tell by the reaction, and plus they were so over, like with the crowd at that point in time.
Okay.
They were well known. I think this is right before the Rockers came in. I actually saw the British Bulldogs wrestle the Rockers live. That's one of the 2 times I saw Shawn Michaels. But that was way back then, because I saw Marty Jannetty too, which not a lot of people can say nowadays. But yeah.
So you go ahead.
They were like a very, very popular tag team for the time, and I think they were set them up to have the belts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it kind of looks like that, but it looked like a weird finish. So maybe that match was supposed to go longer than the 12 minutes we got.
Yeah, I thought the Hammer did good, but I think what is it, Baby Blue? He had all the moves during that match.
Baby Blue? You mean Davey Boy?
Davey Boy. They were wearing blue pants.
Yeah, they were. And Union Jacks.
Yeah. Baby Blue.
My boy Blue.
Yeah. Well, later on they would come in with an English Bulldog.
Time to make the donuts. Yeah, I'm like, anybody else have any iconic slogans from Baby Blue Smith?
Yes.
Throw them in the comments below.
That sounds like a blues singer. Baby Blue Smith.
Maybe you can adopt that one and you can take over that moniker.
Yeah.
Were the Hammer and Beefcake a tag team? Was it like always or?
Oh, this tag team happened after they lost the titles. Remember, because Greg the Hammer was the IC champion, the Intercontinental champion in WrestleMania 1. So
I know when I bought the figures, they came in a package together. Brutus Beefcake and Greg the Hammer Valentine.
Yeah.
So they had enough impact to require the toy manufacturers to put them together. So did the British Bulldogs. So did Nikolai Volkoff and Iron Sheik. Probably some more. Raymond, help me out with this. What other tag team toys did they have besides those 3? There were other ones that was like feuds.
Well, I'm assuming they probably had Hillbilly Jim and someone else together. I remember that one being
Hillbilly Jim. People don't know this. That man is the fastest man on the planet.
Well,
I'll give you an example later.
I don't think he could be Usain Bolt anymore, though.
I don't know, man. But we'll get to it later. Yeah. We'll come back to that. We'll circle back. But but yeah. Anyway, yeah, they when they first came together, they billed them as the Dream Team.
Mm-hmm.
Greg the Hammer Valentine, and they won the belts like shortly after they got together, right?
Right.
Yeah,
And they won them after Nikolai and
Sheik. Yeah,
the Sheik end up dropping it.
Well, during this match, I think
Mhm.
I was asking where the beef was because I don't think he did enough work in that match.
No, and
Hammer was getting hammered.
yeah, the Hammer
he
did pretty
was the
much
new guy, I think, at that
Who?
point. Like
Brutus.
he wasn't like
Brutus had already been there for a while. Like me and Ray had covered
when
that
I
he
say
was
the
he was
new
a
guy, I
friend.
mean,
He was a friend of
Fred
the
Hogan,
top
yeah.
star. So,
But
you know,
but what I mean, like in the business, I mean, Greg the Hammer had been wrestling for a long time, and I'm
oh
pretty sure
yeah,
both the Bulldogs have been wrestling for quite some time.
oh yeah.
too.
Davey Boy started when he was 13 because his
Yeah.
father and his grandfather did not
So-
want him living out,
so I meant-
having bad influences around him at the time. So
Right.
they took him
But I
to
meant
go see a
new
local
to the business is what I meant.
Well, I guess compared to
Compared to
Davey
the other
Boy
three
and
people.
the Dynamite Kid, because they had been
And
pretty
Greg the
much
Hammer.
and
Hammer
Greg
had
the
been around for
Hammer
quite some-
had been wrestling for some time, so far that he was actually able to wrestle with his dad.
Yeah.
And at that point in time, when his dad was wrestling, his dad didn't want him, or the promoter didn't want them to know that they were actually father and son. So that's why he ended up being named differently from his father, where he ended up being Greg Valentine.
Mm.
And then he ended up running security for ICP.
Well, I mean, Baby Blue, I don't know who Baby Blue is, Raymond,
Baby
but
Blue.
Davey Boy had been wrestling at least for about he started at 13. I think he had his in-ring debut when he was like either 15 or 16, so we're looking at maybe 10 or 11 years when he ends up debuting at WrestleMania. He had been doing some
They started beating him up young back then, man. I swear to God.
The Hammer started to grow on me towards the end of the match, and I realized why.
Oh yeah, the Hammer just took. I mean,
It's that mullet. It's hypnotic.
Well, not only the mullet, but he reminds me of He-Man. Anybody watch the cartoon? Do you remember?
You couldn't have been a kid in the 80s and not watch that cartoon.
I'm just saying. She's saying that he looked like He-Man. There's no way that the physique of Greg the
He-Man
Hammer
had the Prince Valiant.
Yeah.
If you are a fan of He-Man and agree, comment below.
Mm-hmm. So with this match, this takes us away and ends us the night of WrestleMania in Chicago.
I was really upset that the British Bulldogs won that match.
Yeah, I understand as you being a fan of the Hammer and Brutus Beefcake, but you know sometimes you got to go with the hot hand, or in this case the hot team who's bringing in the views, selling the merchandise, and getting all the fanfare, because you want those people to come back and spread the word to other people, and then get the promotional train going and getting some more seats in the arena.
Even at 7 years old, I thought Ozzy Osbourne was super cool.
He's awesome.
And so whenever he came out, I was like, yeah, if Ozzy's with them, they they got to be cool,
Yeah. So in LA, we get Jesse the Body Ventura as our announcer with Elvira, the Mistress of the Dark.
I love Elvira.
Doing the color commentary.
James. Yeah. Also known as Cassandra Peterson.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
For breaking kayfabe.
Which is thank you, because for some reason I got that comic book thing crossing. So I knew her name was Cassandra, but I had always associated with Cassandra Cain. So I always get used to saying Cassandra Cain, even though it's Cassandra Peterson.
Another thing that makes her character great for coming into a pro wrestling thing at the time, her career had kayfabe too.
Yeah.
Everywhere she went, and her autographs were all Elvira.
Yeah.
She was Elvira everywhere, but that was a wig. She didn't really look like that. She went to the grocery store. She had blonde hair.
Yeah, she did.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so she got. I loved how she was easily the best guest commentator of the night.
She was
Easily.
so funny.
Yeah, she was.
Yeah.
She was on the
Kathy
level.
Lee
Go ahead.
Yeah, Kathy Lee Crosby hardly said anything, and even when
No.
she first came out, she
Yeah.
said, "This is the first time I've ever been to a live wrestling match."
Yeah.
Yes.
What's that tell you?
Yeah.
But Elvira comes in, she's playing the heel too,
Yeah.
and she was great. She was really good.
She was so funny.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So we have Hercules Hernandez versus Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. I had
you
not.
instantly know it's going to be a great match.
Yeah.
Just because
Ricky's-
anytime Ricky can carry anybody, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, and I
But,
had never seen Hercules before this. So I was rooting for Ricky Dragon. If we're looking at I think I would have been 6 years old when this WrestleMania would have been out. Maybe if I saw it. So
I had only seen him wrestle jobbers up to this point because, like I said, it was the whole thing. Hercules Hernandez was coming down the aisle, and he ended up having some bigger feuds later. He wrestled Hogan a few times.
I mean, Ricky was taking a beating during the beginning of that match.
Oh yeah, and that's what you need once in a while to have the heel start off, because then you start buying into the is Ricky the Dragon going to actually lose? Yeah. And you start once Ricky starts building up that comeback, you're like, oh, Ricky's gonna do it. So you start getting into that match, and then you're buying what they're selling.
Just
and
makes
they
their
got
win all that bigger, better.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
so were you feeling the magic once Ricky started mounting his comeback against Hercules?
Yeah, I was a little nervous because Hercules hit him with the clothesline, and there were like elbows.
Oh yeah, there was a couple of bumps that the Dragon takes, especially
like,
on those clothesline, where I was like, I don't know how he's getting up.
Yeah, I really didn't know if he was gonna win.
Hercules wasn't a terrible wrestler. I mean,
no,
that's the first time I've heard of him. Actually,
he had chops. Like I said, I had seen him wrestle jobbers, and but when I said Ricky could carry anybody, I didn't mean that as like a diss to like Hercules Hernandez. But I'm just saying, as soon as you see Ricky's the Dragon Steamboat come in, you're in for a good match.
Yeah.
That's
USAF.
He's just that good.
Yes, Hercules was part of the United States Air Force. Thank you for that tidbit.
I didn't know that. That's awesome.
So this match runs for about 7.5 minutes. It goes, like some back and forth, and Hercules has the upper hand. Ricky gets the upper hand.
Did you have a
after
favorite?
He's wearing them down? Yeah, Ricky Steamboat, because I had no idea who Hercules Hernandez was. I mean, even now, if I maybe had watched this match again, just because of the history of how I know Ricky Steamboat was, or ends up being, as far as not only a technical wrestler and a good workhorse.
Oh, he was really good before. He had these long, super long feud with Ric Flair in WCW. That was, or NWA.
And that's when that's why they wanted to have that last match where Ric Flair was trying to get Ricky Steamboat so they can go ahead and I guess close the book together. When Ricky was like, no, I'm gonna have my own match without you. Because I don't think he was pretty much telling him like he didn't think Ric Flair should be wrestling, especially after he was recovering from his recent heart attack.
Wow.
So
yeah,
and it showed, because if you look at that match that Ric Flair's having, even though it was like also a 3-man tag, he was struggling to get through that match, and I think at one point they said he actually had blacked out and didn't know exactly where he was.
Wow.
Because it was so humid. I think they had that match in August.
Oof.
Maybe wrong about the date, but
I mean, for a guy like that, like Ric Flair, I mean, you have a storied career like that. I mean, how would you know when to hang it up? Like, and when don't you think it would pull on you? Like, it's like, okay, and I'm retired now, I'm hanging up, but now you're not the Nature Boy.
Yeah, I think that's
you're Richard Fleer.
Yeah, I think that's the thing that he can't let go, is he doesn't have that Richard Flair. He doesn't know what Richard Flair should be doing.
Right?
Like he's been Ric Flair for so long, living that limousine riding, jet flying, kiss stealing, wheeling dealing son of a gun.
Woo!
Yeah. I agree, Raymond. That was the perfect send off, and he just couldn't let it go.
Yeah, I agree with that, Raymond, too, as well. And I could see it. But I could also see it being hard for somebody like that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
To let it go, because
Mhm.
I mean that's been your whole life for so long. What do you do now? You already drank all the alcohol in Charlotte, moved to the next city, and what do we do now? You know?
Yeah. So the next match we have is Adrian Adonis, who has Jimmy Hart, the Mouth of the South, as his manager, versus Uncle Elmer.
I did not remember Uncle Elmer at all. I didn't even bother to look him up because I figured he didn't have much of a career after that either. But I remember thinking, was this supposed to be the P break match? And if so, was it in the wrong spot and they had to learn the right spot to put it in?
This 10th match was like the match of my nightmares. I'm like, why? What is this?
Well, I
Adrian
think this is
Adonis
when
was a freaky dude.
I'm not sure
He
who
was
started this.
Goldust before it was cool.
Yeah, I was like, I'm not sure who started this gimmick first, where it's
Gorgeous George.
It was a Gorgeous George.
Gorgeous
I wasn't
George.
that had that whole gimmick where he kind of pushed that whole kind of what's the word? I can't think of it, but those extreme sexualized or sensualized androgyny. There you go. Thank you.
Yeah.
Tones where it's supposed to make the other wrestler awkward. But yeah, Goldust does take this up another notch, which we'll eventually get later. But at this time,
we got to give it up to Adrian Adonis, because honestly,
yeah,
if you look at that dude's size, he was quite physical.
Yeah,
he was good.
He was
quite good.
He really
and
was.
he oversold the crap out of this match long before Sean made
exactly.
it cool.
Yes.
And speaking of, I knew exactly this is what you were talking about after I had spoken about Jim overselling for Andre, but Adrian Adonis was a very tough man. You know, he had like a biker gimmick when he was coming up, and he had been teaming up with Roddy Piper. During my research, I've seen that Roddy Piper's leather jacket was actually gifted to him by Adrian Adonis before he changed his gimmick to, well, we get this sexualized androgynous personality that he comes forward. Right. So he gifts it, and then Roddy Piper pretty much wears that for the rest of his career.
Okay. So with this match.
Yeah, so with this match, when you seen Adonis come out, and then you saw Uncle Elmer come out, who were you rooting for?
Me?
Yeah, you, Maria.
Who was I rooting for?
Yeah, Maria. Who were you rooting for?
I wasn't rooting for anyone. I just wanted the match to be over.
Oh, so this probably would have been your bathroom break if you had seen both in
That's what
real
I was saying.
life.
I think this was supposed to be
I
the
think
P
it was
break.
supposed to probably be the bathroom
because
break.
Adonis wasn't super over at the time, like know, even as a heel. Later on, he got a bit more over.
Yeah, because he does get a couple of.
Point,
go ahead.
Not so much.
Yeah.
And Uncle Elmer, like I said, I didn't remember him at all.
Yeah, I think this is when he's still workshopping and trying to get more of that the adorable Adrian Adonis gimmick to work. He's still workshopping and getting things going, because he does find his stride. He does get a couple of shots at Hulk Hogan, and you wouldn't be getting that if Vince didn't think you were good enough to get the baby face of the company over and getting some more credibility.
Yeah. No, he worked the gimmick for a while. He did well with it. I definitely remember Adrian Adonis as a kid. I remember not liking him, which means he was good at his job.
Yeah, exactly. If you're a little kid and you're seeing this, you're like, what the F is happening with this guy? Why is he wearing clothes that like you see some kid in the 1920s wearing?
Yeah. But
Yes, that's what I thought he was, Raymond. Uncle Elmer was part of the Hillbilly Jim stable along with Cousin Luke. I thought it was. Which I was surprised why they had separated Uncle Elmer and threw him over here in Los Angeles, and he wasn't part of the Rumble.
So by this time, it's been so long. I forgot that we still had to get to a cage match.
Oh, we still have one more match
Yeah,
before we get to the
still have
cage
one
match.
before that. Yeah.
Yeah, we have the Funk brothers, Terry Funk and Haas Funk, versus Tito Santana and the Junkyard Dog.
Also known as rednecks versus minorities.
Oh yeah,
That's the 11th.
I mean that's another way you can look at that, or sometimes
well, Vince
Texas.
was doing that kind of stuff at the time. And
A sign of the
guess who
time.
went over?
We're
Guess
talking
who went over?
1985.
86.
With this one,
86.
Yeah, when this one came out was
86.
86. Yeah. So with this
On a
one,
Monday.
the white rednecks go over.
Yep.
But
I think this
did.
match should have been sooner on the card.
It
personally.
I
might.
think so too, because my money is on Chico and the Junkyard Dog. Fan of both of them.
I think he didn't want to have it because you figured that maybe since the Uncle Elmer match was Adrian Adonis was about 3 minutes.
Yeah.
With this one running, if that one would have been, if you would have switched these, since this one ran about 11 minutes, close to 12 minutes, then you're kind of, it took them a while to set up that steel cage. So if you have that,
It did.
you probably,
That was another technical problem.
yeah, you probably would have saved yourself some setup time. But I don't think Vince thought that this tag match would have gone that far.
I don't think they anticipated how much time it would take to set up the steel cage either. I think they pulled something, but
I thought Chico and the Junkyard Dog were on fire during this match.
Yeah, and that's something that you expect.
But then again, you had Terry Funk in there, and that's why and Dory Funk, which is why it got a little bit hardcore in there too.
Got a
in
little
fact,
funky.
This is the first time somebody went through a table in WrestleMania history.
Yes, that was gonna, and the table did not break when they get put through the timekeeper. So that's why you know that spot was probably not as well planned out on there.
I don't think
because you figured that they would have been able to get like an actual what is that? It's not cardboard, but some type of
like that was a legit table,
laminate table
No, they're
or
all
whatever.
legit tables. It's just they know how to hit through it and which spots to hit through.
Yeah. Yeah, this table was not gimmicked, which means that they like Nate said, they have like a soft spot that they work on.
No, they really don't.
Like that.
They really don't. They're regular folding tables, but they know how hard somebody needs to go through it and at which spot in the table you need to hit for it to break. And if you go off like where the legs are, it's not going to break.
Yeah.
But if you got to get it right in the center, and it has to be the right amount of force, and eventually people know how to do that.
Oh, I did not know that Terry Funk was in Over the Top. Yeah, I forgot that was the movie with Sylvester Stallone taking his kid along for a ride in the arm wrestling circuit, isn't it?
Yeah. So. Terry Funk is definitely one of the biggest legends of all time.
Yeah, and another thing that Terry Funk was also good at, besides being a hardcore legend, along with Mick Foley, is he sure knew how to get thrown over the top rope.
I don't think there'd be a Mick Foley like we know Mick Foley if it wasn't for Terry Funk.
So when you're saying Mick Foley,
particle board, thank you. Yes, when I say Mick Foley,
they're particle.
I'm thinking of Police Academy. Forget it.
Oh, I think you're thinking about Axel Foley of Beverly Hills Cop.
Oh, Beverly Hills Cop. I have that song on my Spotify.
And who wouldn't have that one? But with this one, the baby faces come out hot, and they pretty much keep the advantage until the heels finally manage to get the megaphone from the mouth of the South, and through a little bit of distraction, he conks over, I think it's JYD, and then he gets the pin on there.
I thought Elvira's hilarious during this match because she's like, I hope their trunks are strong, because they were grabbing each other by the trunks and tossing each other.
Yeah, he was grabbing Tito Santana from his trunks a lot when they were trying to do that over the head press.
She was great during this match. I was sad. I mean, this is her only WrestleMania that she appears in, or
I believe so. I don't recall her coming back.
I mean, at least as like a character, maybe in an audience in another one.
I had
Yeah.
an
I don't remember.
opportunity to hear her this year. She was on a YouTube show with Mayim Bialik. I don't know if everybody remembers Blossom.
She was
But
also
she
on
was on
Big
that
Bang
show.
Theory.
She was
Yeah,
yeah, she was.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that was a good episode with Elvira.
And
Tito
ahead.
Santana, we
Yeah.
got to mention he was coming off of losing the Intercontinental Championship to Macho Man.
Yes.
And when he got into this match.
Yeah. And he didn't get that rematch. I believe he doesn't get it for a while either. But go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say that I was upset with this match because I feel like the Funk Brothers, well, I guess they did their job. It felt like they cheated all the way to a win.
And that's pretty much what you want, is especially if you're a young kid or somebody that would have been
I was shouting no,
would have been rooting for the faces. You would have been like, why did that happen?
It wasn't just that. I mean, in these arenas, you also had
did he?
No, he doesn't.
Play for the people in the very back of the nosebleeds, 4 stories up, and those kids had to see who the bad guys were too.
Yeah.
And that's the mentality, because it was more rare that it was televised than it was live. So most of them come from the live thinking of putting on the show. But yeah.
All right. And then this leads us to the main event of main events from
the
main
first
event.
World Championship match in WrestleMania history.
Yes, because like I had told Raymond before, it was weird that the first WrestleMania did not have that, since it was a tag match of the World Heavyweight Champion at the time, Hulk Hogan, teaming up with Mr. T. So this is the actual first World Heavyweight title defense of King Kong Bundy versus Hulk Hogan.
Hogan was so over at the time.
Yeah.
The very first wrestling event I ever went to, the main event was Hulk Hogan versus Jesse the Body Ventura.
Oh, that must have been a while, because Jesse had stopped wrestling.
Yeah. Well, when Hulk Hogan won, I have never heard a live audience that loud to this day. I'm literally screaming in my mom's ear like I'm whispering to her, and she still can't hear me.
Wow.
I remember that. He was so over. In fact, he was so over, he didn't get 1 promo during WrestleMania 2. He didn't get 2 promos. They gave him 3 promos.
Yeah.
Leading up to this match during WrestleMania 2.
One was taped when he's doing those weights and those chin-ups, because he's trying to toughen up his abs and his back.
He was doing the heavy chins. But no, that was in LA at the time. And Hillbilly Jim, being as fast as he was in the Battle Royal in Chicago and made it all the way to Los Angeles in time.
He took that underground bullet train that only...
No, he just ran.
He just ran. Okay.
Yeah, he just ran.
Right?
Yeah, that's one of the continuity problems.
Yeah.
That's really
but yeah,
Yes. Yeah. Thank you.
He was actually out of action for a month before this. He didn't appear live anywhere. He was in vignettes, but before this, because of hurt ribs. Why he was really out, nobody really knows, because like I mentioned earlier, they didn't really care if you were injured. In fact, Bobby the Brain Heenan had an MRI the day before, and they found 2 broken vertebrae in his neck.
Wow.
And Vince told him, if you don't show up to LA for the main event, you're fired.
And he still takes those bumps where he gets thrown up against the steel cage and everything.
He does. And then he's quoted saying he goes back to Tampa the next day, and they were like, "Where were you at?" He was like, "Oh, I had to wrestle in Los Angeles." And they said, "You're nuts." And he says, "No, it's my neck."
Yeah.
That's a Bobby the Brain.
This one also thinking about it is like it had to be something related. Maybe Hulk was in an accident, because I had never seen him wear his bandana covering up his eye like that.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, because that always seemed weird to me that he had his bandana
Yeah.
kind of like so over like this draped over his left or his left eye.
Oh no, yeah, how he had it turned and he had
Yeah,
like.
yeah.
I think that was just the style. I think he was just trying to
I
look
thought,
wilder
I
or
think
something.
like I was trying to figure out if he was like trying to cover up like some cut or some black eye or something like
No,
that.
I think he was just being 80s chic
Yeah,
at the
okay.
time. But King Kong Bundy legit scared me when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I mean,
Why?
look at that. No hair, no eyebrows, just he was
Yeah.
the monster heel. Like there were
Mhm.
other monster heroes before him, but there was something about him that when he'd come out, I'm just be like, oh my God, the way he talked, everything just it was just like that dude's scary. Until I saw him in Moving with Richard Pryor, and then I'm like, oh, okay, he's a cool guy.
Yeah, and he actually tried stand up at one time.
I didn't see that, no, but
Yeah.
What?
I'm
When
gonna
I
have
was
to
doing the
research
research, it
this.
said that he had towards his later years, he actually tried to be a stand-up comic.
Oh wow,
So if anyone finds or has seen King Kong Bundy going out there doing a comedic set, let me know. Write in the comments. Forget to click subscribe, click on the notification so you can join in the conversation at and our YouTube channel at Revisiting the Mania. Check out our socials on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram at Revisiting Mania. This is we're coming down to our last match here. Breakdown with our friend Nate.
the main event.
Yeah, so we have a steel cage match between Hulk Hogan and King Kong Bundy. This was
A reinforced steel cage.
yeah, reinforced steel cage match, and I told Maria they eventually do change this out.
No,
But
they had the cyclone fencing before that. The one that Snuka jumped off of was also cyclone fence. But
Mm.
they reinforced this for
yeah, because of King Kong Bundy.
King Kong Bundy.
Yeah.
But really, they were just going with the because they used that same cage for a while. Like later, I saw a cage match with Hogan and Orndorff, and they had the big blue steel cage.
Mhm.
And when they sold the toy for the ring for the wrestling doll, that was the big blue steel cage as well.
Yeah.
Wow.
So you're basically saying that it's not reinforced.
No, I think they were just bringing it out to.
Because I was gonna say, how do you enforce a steel cage?
I don't think it broke as easily as cyclone fencing did.
Hmm.
And they wanted something they could reuse to basically spend less money on cyclone fencing. That's my theory, at least. That's what
Well,
makes
I
sense to
think
me.
Raymond got the answer here. They changed the color of the cage to make it easier for filming.
That makes
It looked
sense.
better on TV, but added the note that the wrestlers hated it.
Kind of like the red hell in the cell.
Oh yeah, the first one.
I hate the red one, dude. I hate the red hell in the cell.
So this one pretty much Bundy is
well, hold
coming
on.
in here.
We got Tommy Lasorda as the guest.
Oh
announcer.
yeah, I
Mentioned
forgot
Tommy
it. We
Lasorda.
got the celebrities here. We can't forget about the celebrities,
Yep.
Maria. Did Tommy Lasorda, managers of the LA Dodgers, do anything for you as the guest announcer?
I want to say no. I thought Elvira was still killing it during this match.
Mm-hmm.
And also, who do we have?
We had
Ricky?
Silver Spoon's
Ricky?
fame, Ricky Schroeder.
I was surprised to hear people.
Well, the other star of Silver Spoons. The other one was Carlton.
Carlton. Yeah, I'm like, why were
Alfonso
people
Ribeiro
booing?
does in
Yeah,
there.
Alfonso Ribeiro.
Yeah, he is in there one, but I think he ends up getting replaced or taken off after maybe a couple of seasons.
He came in late, as I recall.
Oh, okay.
I wasn't like a Silver Spoons mark.
Yeah,
it sounds like
it was in syndication.
Fan.
Yeah, I mean,
it came on after school.
Yeah, I don't know. It might have
of
come
life.
after school. Yeah, right.
And if
In
you were a
different
fan of
strokes.
Silver Spoons, that's okay.
Yeah, I remember that King Kong
Yeah.
Bundy was on Married with Children. He was
No
on there
way.
twice. King Kong Bundy was on there twice. I think they wrote him in as a brother of Peg Bundy.
Wow.
That's what I was gonna say. I think he was one of the wankers.
Yes, and then he actually was in there in his wrestling character, and I think they see a kind of like a bootleg WrestleMania.
Okay.
Al and his kid Bud, and King Kong Bundy shows up in there.
Wow. I would actually rewatch
Married with Children.
we watch it growing up. It's just like one of those shows that we watched, after we ate dinner or with the family. They always had it on growing up. It's one of those shows of our childhood. And then
I know.
we
I've tried to
Jefferson.
rewatch it. There's a lot in there that's dated.
Was it hard?
Well, it was harder, and maybe that was just the first season in particular.
Okay.
But there was still a lot of things that just seemed out there. I tried to show my kids is what it was, and they totally didn't get it.
Oh, that's like when I tried watching the original X-Men, and I was like, well,
I remember this being better, but unfortunately, it was
Yeah,
not.
right.
yeah,
I thought the same thing about Thundercats. Like, I
Thundercats.
tried to rewatch Thundercats. I'm like, I remember this being so much better when I was a kid.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I'm
but
assuming that Ray is talking about Erin Gray. Was she like the mom or somebody in Silver Spoons? Because I wasn't really paying attention to a lot of actors.
Okay,
names.
Raymond is a Silver Spoons mark, apparently.
I guess so. Because
I'm just curious. I'm like, who are you rooting for?
well, in this one, if we're thinking about us
Ray,
as
your ringtone
children,
in my phone is now going to be the Silver Spoons theme song. Just saying.
so yeah, it was Hulk Hogan that like we've all been saying throughout this whole time.
Okay.
Hulk
Super
Hogan was
over.
the face of WWF now wrestling.
Okay.
Pretty
Like,
much
it got to
until,
the point that people that didn't even know wrestling would know, oh, that's that thing Hulk Hogan does.
yeah.
You know?
And
It
at
was-
this time, I think they also have that cartoon going at the time, don't they?
Yeah.
I've never watched
I
this cartoon.
I actually have the entire cartoon series.
Wow.
What's the name of the cartoon series? It's the
Hulk Hogan's Rockin' Wrestling.
Yeah, Hulk Hogan's Rockin' Wrestling. So they have like all the major kind of stars that are on there. They have cartoon version of Hulk Hogan, Junkyard Dog, Andre the Giant.
There was the faces in
Hillbilly
the heel
Jim,
stable,
yeah,
Roddy Piper,
Paul
Captain
Orndorff,
Lou.
yeah.
Yeah.
So they all
Junkyard
lend their
Dog.
voices, yeah, on this one. So Hulk Hogan is so hot right now, as Hansel was in
Like white hot.
Zoolander, yeah.
Wow.
So he comes in and he comes
Tears his shirt
out.
off on the top of the cage.
Yeah, he's ready for this cage match.
Yeah.
Cartoon
Wow.
was from
85
85,
to
87.
87.
Yeah, so the
it was
cartoon
right
was
off,
going at this time.
yeah, it was right off the heels of WrestleMania 1, I would probably assume. So Hogan comes out hot, starts taking it to King Kong Bundy, and they go a little bit back and forth with Bundy getting the advantage at times, and also
Hogan matches were pretty formulaic back then.
Oh yeah,
And this one was no difference. It's like, basically, he has some offense at the front, right,
Yes.
at the beginning, and then loses the upper hand, starts
Yes.
taking a beating, right? And
But-
then he ends up hulking out, right?
yeah.
Starts punching back, then a big boot or scoop slam, leg drop, pin, done.
Except for this one, we couldn't get a pin because the only way you win is by going through the door.
Going over the
Yeah.
cage.
Which
yeah.
for some reason King Kong Bundy
Or the
thought
double.
he could actually get out of fast for some reason.
Yeah.
Right.
He kept trying to go through the door. He never once attempted to climb the ring. I mean, you're a 6'4", 450 pounds, which I still don't believe he was 450 pounds, but he was billed as that. And there's no way that mountain of a man is going to be able to get through a door
He was
that looks like
he was
maybe
a slim
it was as
468.
It was
maybe
two
a-
of the squares.
a 2x4
Wide.
or 3x
Yeah, 2x4,
3x5
2x4,
opening,
2x6,
something like
something
that.
like that.
Yeah,
There's definitely two wide.
yeah.
I was rooting for him in this match.
You were actually rooting for King Kong Bundy.
I really was.
Oh, wow.
Give us the thought behind this when you saw King
I don't
Kong
know what it was
Bundy.
during this
He
match,
didn't know
but
what
I
he
was
did
rooting for him.
previously. That's why.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Is that what it is? Yeah.
She didn't see the build-up. Yeah.
All right. Well,
about a
they
month
had the
earlier-
build-up. This is when they start adding some of those build-ups. They started
Well,
setting up
this
for
was-
the main events. Like
this
for
was
the main
another
event,
one.
they had one. They had one for New York. They had the
Yeah.
the tape of why this feud is still going, why Mr. T and Roddy Piper, and then they had the thing with the British Bulldogs too. I believe no, they didn't have one for that one. They had it. They didn't do anything. No tail of the tape or rewind on why this is happening to them. But they had one for this one. They had a
Well,
kind
they
of
needed the time to set up the cage.
yeah, it's true. It explains, but I mean, for the
Timing.
boxing match, they really didn't need that. But yeah,
Timing
Well,
is
maybe to get all those people coordinated to come out.
yeah, I guess.
that too.
I mean,
Maybe Joe Frazier was ready to go out there,
Oh, the
and
box
he
match.
wanted his money.
Yeah. They couldn't find the Haiti kid. He was off somewhere.
Oh my god! So, like you said, Nate, you pretty much summed it up. Hulk Hogan, and I think it's formulaic not only in this match, it's pretty much throughout this whole pay per view where you see where if the face does end up winning, it's pretty much they start off hot, heel comes back, takes advantage, and then they end up securing the win in some type of miracle type of thing. So it's not only formulaic in this match, but it's throughout this pay per view from what I could see too.
Yeah. Now, I mean, the pay per view as a whole
Mm-hmm.
had a lot of problems. They were still learning and learned a lot from what happened at this pay per view on how to run something like this. But in watching back to back WrestleMania, and even remembering this as a kid,
Yeah,
I think it was overall a better show than WrestleMania 1,
yeah,
just as an entertainment factor,
You're right.
you
yeah.
know?
It did have all the celebrities, and this one I think I did end up having two matches, whereas WrestleMania it was kind of like a snooze fest
Right.
for me.
WrestleMania will always go down in history because it was the first one,
Yeah,
right? And so it's going to be an iconic, legendary thing no matter what. But I think if you're just as a show itself, I think this was better. And it was by far not the best. By
No.
far, right? And I
Yeah.
think once they got to WrestleMania 3, they had learned enough to really make something huge. First thing they learned was, okay, don't try for more venues, try for one bigger venue,
Right.
right? That could save you a lot of headaches, right? Just the pacing of everything, WrestleMania 3, all of it. But that will be covered again in another episode of Revisiting Mania.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
so we won't go too deep into that.
Last
But
thing I want to say here, besides Bobby the Brain Heenan getting thrown into the steel cage,
taking bumps with 2 broken vertebrae in his neck.
Oof.
right? At
Fractured
this point
vertebrae.
in time, Jesse and
That's
still
true.
yeah,
That's true, Raymond.
Yeah, don't rewatch it first.
fans don't rewatch it, but people who are starting off their WrestleMania journeys and want to know where it all
Just
began.
interested in the history.
Yeah,
I will say, I'm like, I really enjoyed watching 1 just to see where, WrestleMania started. And then 2, like you said, was better. So I agree with you. And I can't wait to see what 3 looks like.
yeah. So, but with this one, Elvira mentioned something about when Hulk Hogan is posing, and she says that Hulk Hogan is shooting the crab. Do you know what shooting the crab is?
No idea.
She also
Raymond, do
said,
you know what
"This is
shooting the
making me
crab is?"
hungry." And I was like, "What is making you hungry?"
Was it that pose that's like that one? I don't know.
It could be. Oh man.
So, with that little tidbit here, Nate, if
Yes.
you had to recommend any fan that wanted to watch WrestleMania and they're like, Nate, you watch a lot of wrestling. Is there a match in WrestleMania 2 that I should be looking for instead of watching 3 hours of this pay-per-view?
There were 2 matches that I have listed that I thought were the best matches of the night.
Okay.
But as in that scenario, I would tell the fan to skip WrestleMania 2 all in all. But if you're just watching, you're stuck with no other WrestleManias on earth, you're on a desert island and that's the only DVD you have.
Oh no.
And you want to skip to the best, I voted for 2 of them. One is obviously Steamboat, because Steamboat Hernandez. Steamboat can carry anybody. That's going to be a great match just because he's in it, period.
Okay.
And the other one, I thought Dream Team Bulldogs
Okay. Yeah.
was the other highlight.
I definitely agree with that. I actually have that one as one of my matches that was the highlight of this one. And actually, the other one that I thought was a good one was the other tag match that we ended up getting here too, with the Funks and Tito Santana and the Junkyard Dog.
Yeah,
No, that was good. I just kept feeling it could have been better.
Oh, it definitely could have
Because
been
I know
better.
the talent that's in the ring, and I felt like, and maybe that's why I felt this way, because I know what they could have produced.
Yeah.
And I don't think they
exactly.
displayed
But,
their potential.
yeah, but for me, that's exactly it's like I knew what they were capable of. Eventually, they find like what's selling and what the audience is buying, and they get more into the detail, or the faces
Yeah.
are winning and the heels are kind of doing like their little backstabbing, cheating, things like that at the time. And yeah, JYD was a bit washed.
That's
And that's
one
like,
word for it.
yeah, I mean, I did find out that he probably uh was probably on some type of enhancements
Yeah.
or that might have been hindering his ring performance. But either way, like that those two matches seem not cohesive, but they seem more better. Like the talent was
Yeah.
better,
Well,
and they seem to have gelled better. Like the storytelling, like you actually got who was a heel and who was the face, and
right.
they actually lived those personalities, and the ring psychology or the match psychology was consistent throughout. You weren't like confused or anything like that. Where you knew who the audience would be rooting for, why they were rooting for, and at the end of that second tag match, the heels win, and they win in a very dastardly way, and it's not only making the faces look good, but it's also making the heels look good at the same time.
Well, it also set up for the next match where Hogan comes out higher. It makes that pop even bigger because now you're down from watching the heels match. So they
Yeah.
started figuring out the storytelling in
Mhm.
that too.
Yeah, to ride
And
momentum from one match to the other.
right. And then they also, I mean, come WrestleMania 3, they got a better taste for the pageantry and
Mhm.
how to bring that involved more. And because that's come 3 when they had the ring cart coming down. I don't want to spoil anything for Maria, but by the way, Maria, I should have said this at the beginning of this stream. You are the star of this whole thing.
Why? Why?
Because this is all about you.
Yeah.
You
Oh,
haven't
wow.
seen these.
About me learning?
This is
Yeah.
yeah, you're the one that's makes it interesting. Me and Carlos could talk about WrestleMania all day and be boring unless you were involved.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Because you're the one that it's like has the new reaction, has the new and that's so
Fresh eye.
everybody
Yeah,
home, give it
fresh
up to Maria
eyes.
real quick.
Yeah, and then we have to pretty much guide you through it
Yeah.
and be like, this is probably why this went. And you may not like why so and so won or why so and so lost, but it ends up either paying off here or it builds up further down the line because of this, and this ends up happening.
Or
Right.
between WrestleManias, all
Yeah.
this happened.
Yeah.
I think the
Yeah.
two matches that I liked for this WrestleMania 2 are Junkyard Dog and Tito.
Mm-hmm.
And then watching Moolah, like that quick
Oh,
one.
okay.
Even though it wasn't like a super important match, it was just quick.
Oh, okay. That's a shocker.
It
Seeing women
kind of was in
wrestling.
the grand scheme because,
Yeah.
like we were saying, it came off that original screw job, and she was still playing up that angle. And
Mhm.
this was like the last women's championship match until until years later, like years and years later. Also, this was the only steel cage match in WrestleMania history until like WrestleMania 28.
Wow.
Oh, I did not know that.
That's a
Yeah, something like that.
long
Right? No,
time.
sorry. WrestleMania 38. There it is. It's
I
in
mean,
my
that's an
notes.
even longer
Oh,
time,
okay.
right?
Yeah, because
Yeah,
that's like 2 years from
that
like
was
in
just a couple years
2020.
ago.
That is so
Yeah,
crazy.
2020.
yeah. There was no other steel cage matches except for this one
2021.
until WrestleMania 38. Yeah.
Is there a reason why, or is it just
No,
it
it's
was done
just like
once?
maybe a story didn't warrant it,
Well,
or
so they were kind of gimmicky, right?
Okay.
Steel cage matches back then were more like for like, oh well, they've had all these matches. Well, now we're going to put them in a steel
Mhm.
cage, and it was something kind of transition to like something else because it just
Yeah.
seemed like it was a tougher thing. Then later they started using, well, if there's a lot of interference, we're going to use a steel cage so no one else can interfere.
Mhm.
And an event like WrestleMania, they started having them as like finite ends to feuds or
Yeah.
culminations, so to speak. So a steel cage didn't really fit into a lot of that. They're more of like a build up to storytelling because you wanted like a definitive winner. And a lot of times with steel cages, there's other ways to win,
Mhm.
and
Which we
that
do
is, it
see a
doesn't
couple of
seem like,
times.
yeah, which doesn't seem like a clean win all
Mhm.
over. You want to see your guy pin them to the mat, 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
And
That's
Maria,
what the audience wants.
now that you're learning about wrestling, do you know what a clean win is?
Is that when you're like down for a count at 3 and it's like, everyone can tell that the person won? Or
Yeah, exactly. It's pretty
That's
much
it. Or submission, or they
yeah,
tap.
yeah. But it's no interference, no foreign objects, no referee bumps, nothing out of the ordinary. It's just a
Yep.
clean 1, 2, 3 pin or a submission win, or in this case, you climb out of the ring.
Well, that's the thing. They don't seem. I mean, that doesn't seem like something because anybody could escape the cage at a time. That doesn't seem like as much of a win, at least in my eyes. I think there are other fans that feel that way.
Yeah,
So that's
but
why like a steel cage isn't a great culmination of like
yeah.
a feud. You know what I'm saying? But that, maybe it's just my opinion. I don't know.
All right, Nate. Well, thanks a lot for joining us today in
Oh,
this
thank you.
edition of Revisiting the Mania second episode as we watch WrestleMania. Don't forget to click subscribe and the notification on YouTube. Visit us at Revisiting Mania on Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, and our Facebook page at Revisiting the Mania. Thanks again for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you as part of WrestleMania 3. Trying to narrow down, we're actually going to have
yeah, please.
we're going to have an in-house guest. We're trying to narrow down the schedule on that, so that's going to be something new for us. But if you subscribe to our notifications or any of our socials, you'll be up to date with the information of when our next episode should drop.
And was it neat?
Yeah, and don't forget, if you want more of wrestling information, history, or maybe Nate can be in charge of your video wrestling league, you can reach out to Nate at yes that Nader. That's N8, the number 8R on Twitter. Thanks again, Nate, and
Thank you.
be safe. Have a great night, everybody.
Later. Thanks.
This is